Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. We are reconvening the Finance Committee, Council as a whole, budget deliberations. The time is 6:01. And at this time, I will ask Madam Clerk to call the roll call.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite.
Melly Garthwaite, Council at Large, present.
Councilman Brian Laux is absent. Councilwoman Ann Heffernan.
First District, present.
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti.
Councilwoman Michelle Coletti, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali is absent. Councilman Gary Donovan.
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan.
Councilman Edward McMillan, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is absent. Councilman Christopher Vargo.
Councilman Christopher Vargo, 8th District, present.
Councilwoman Katie Muller.
Councilwoman Katie Muller, present, 9th District.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone is absent, and Chairman Nicholas Pascal is absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, we are going to start discussions on the Grants Department, and I see Mr. Spryer is here. Just as a reminder to the council, because everything was blocked individually, if we finish with grants, we cannot start the next until 6:30, and then so on. So it has to start on a designated time.
Gotcha.
Good evening, Mr. Spryer. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Do you have anything you want to present before we start with some questions?
I don't. Grant seems to be pretty straightforward, so we're ready to go.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Spryer? Councilman Donovan.
Yes. All right. All right, so I see here, Rick, that we got the economic developer, right? We have a position.
That's in
scheduled,
planning.
right?
Economic development falls in planning.
We're only
Grants is
Oh, I'm sorry.
we're in grants. Yeah.
Right, so again, let's go with, so we have a grant director,
Correct.
and we got rid of a grant coordinator, correct? Okay, and then also with the grants, I guess that would be building official. No, that's all I got for the
Yeah.
grants.
The only new position in grants is the grants director. Grants coordinator was eliminated for a grants director. Seeing we'd get a better pool of candidates with a grants director position. Our grants assistant writer, Olivia Basante, was promoted to grants writer. Gisela Vidal, who was listed as an assistant grants writer, but is actually a grants accountant. We changed that title in the budget this year to grants accountant, and we just hired an assistant grants writer to fill that position. So
And all those raises are contractual.
correct.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. That's it.
Mr. Spryer, is the department fully funded at this point?
Right now it is, yes.
It is. Okay. And we have hired the grants director, the new director.
We have not hired the grants director. It's fully funded.
Fully funded, but it's not.
But
fully
it's not
staffed.
fully staffed. Yes.
Okay. Is that job currently posted?
It is. It was
Okay.
posted internally. No one. There was no internal applicants for it. It's posted externally right now, but we haven't narrowed it down to a pool of candidates we want to interview yet.
Okay. My questions about grants surrounds what was requested before, also by this council and the prior council. I recall a couple of meetings where the prior council asked the grants department if they could produce a report that has a spend down. It's basically a spend down report because that council was asked to bond quite a few projects, and there was some questions about whether or not there was grant funding and whether it's been spent down or not. And this council has requested whether or not it's possible to have a report of what grants are outstanding and where they are in the procurement process, the funding process, the payout process. And we've been told that report doesn't really exist. And I'm wondering, what can be done to maybe correct that? Because it would seem that would make the department more efficient, but also help us.
Yeah. So at this moment, there isn't a report that reflects all that, and there should be. The project manager position that you'll see in the other part of the budget that we're looking to hire is going to help with that. Pardon me. We have done a significant amount of drawdowns on past grants that we are being reimbursed for that the city is going to get ready to put out a release for that will show that past administrations hadn't been drawing down on grants, that we've been spending money that we had not been reimbursed for. And we're going to put together something for that. We'll send to the council beforehand, but we'll issue a press release on that, on how much money we've actually recovered from past money that we've spent that we have not drawn down on our grants from.
Do those reports have to be manually generated, or do you have a software package in the department that can help
Manually
with that?
generated.
Wow.
Yes.
Are there options to help with the automation of that?
It's not so much as the need for a software program as the need for the information to disseminate down to the accounting and grant writer level from the director level. And it just never was. So now we've got a line of communication between public works, between grants, between finance that allows us to pull those reports together a little more quicker. So
Thank you.
we'll give you that report before we disseminate it to the press, but it'll be soon that we put that out.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions from the council? Councilwoman Heffernan and then Councilwoman. Oh, you're first. Councilwoman Garthwaite.
Rick.
Yep.
Printing 52210. It's gone up 2,400%.
That's in planning development.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm looking on the. Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
That's a question for later then.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions.
Councilwoman Heffernan.
The new position, which union are they in?
Grants director
Yes,
will be 1103.
1103.
Yes.
And is the whole department in the same union, or is that the administrative union? And there's
The 1103 is the management union.
Yeah. Okay.
The assistant grant writer, I do not know where that one will land. I know traditionally it landed in 1103 as well, but I don't know where we have landed with that one. I don't know.
Councilwoman Garthwaite.
Your consultant 56210.
Mm-hmm.
We have it at the request is 10,000. Do we know why that is?
We requested 10. They requested 10,000. We recommended 0 because we hired an assistant grants writer to take over that.
Okay, so
That the mayor's
That was
recommended that to be down to 0.
okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
The assistant grant writer is going to fill in that gap.
Fill in for the consultant, what the consultant was doing. Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council on grants? Councilman McMillan.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Spryer, just one question from me. Will there still be overtime as listed here due to the oppositions being?
There's overtime in there because sometimes the grants writers are expected to come to city council and things of
Got
that
it.
nature, and so contractually we have to pay them overtime to do that.
Gotcha.
So
Thank you, sir.
that's the reason why it's in there.
Councilwoman Callahan.
Good evening, Ricky.
Hi.
A quick question on the regular wages. So that jumped from 150 to 302 because of the other position?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
On the first line under,
Well, it jumped 90,000 because that was an additional position added.
okay, okay.
But then the other increases were all contractual.
Is that at what Councilman
Donovan asked,
talked
yeah.
about? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So the 1103 union has contractual increases that come at the end of the fiscal year. So that's why those are in there.
Perfect, thank you.
And to clarify, the grants department itself, the increase is 31,734. The larger increase is the entirety of the planning and development budget, correct? Because
Yes.
That bottom line, the 351,105 is everybody.
Yes.
Got it. Any other questions for Mr. Spryer on grants? Councilwoman Garthwaite.
Rick, maybe this is a silly question, but I figured I would ask it. We have the three positions getting raises here, and they go from 6.2 to 8.8 to 3.3. Why is there such a difference in all?
That's a union. I don't understand. I don't know the answer to that. That's a union. There's different steps. There's different classification, job classifications within the union. In 1103, they don't call them. They don't have them numbered. 681, it's A21, A24s, B16s, things like that. So each different classification was granted a different percentage increase in their yearly increase. I don't know the reasoning behind that though. But these all do follow the union contract.
Right. So I guess it goes by, you're saying it goes by steps, correct?
Correct.
So the higher.
So these are all budgeted at the top step. These aren't exactly what the people are getting. They may not be getting paid this amount.
Uh-huh.
This is the most that they could get paid
Okay.
in that position as it stands right now.
Okay.
There's 4 steps in 1103. This is budgeted at the 4th step. We may have people here that are 2nd step. I don't know exactly what they are, but we budgeted the top so in case
Just in case.
they do
Okay.
reach top step during the year, we've got it budgeted for.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Rick, we've heard from a number of department heads that the salary budget's always at the top step, regardless if you're at step 1 or the top step.
Mhm.
Just for everybody that's here, what's the rationale that you just budget at the most instead of what the folks are actually making?
Because if you're hired, say you were hired June 28th, and July 1st, there's a contractual step increase. On your anniversary, there's a contractual step increase. So if you were hired at step 1, you're hired at step 3. You by your first year anniversary, you're already at step 3, and then by July 1st, you're back at step 4. So it's just so that next year it doesn't seem like it's that huge of an increase to the following year. But there's
I assume it's also pretty prohibitive for HR to figure that out for all the city.
correct. Like we couldn't go through every employee what their contractual step is at the time. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Councilwoman Heffernan?
Rick, do we ever, I know how much you enjoyed the teachers union.
Love the teachers.
I know you do. But do we ever hire anyone, sometimes if there's someone that's really desirable, do we ever put them, like with the teachers, like sometimes we'll hire at step 3 if they're like a class that really, like a Latin teacher or a chemistry teacher. Do we ever do that?
Hire them at a higher step than 1?
1, yeah.
So that's a contractual thing with the union. So it's 681. We hire at step 1. That's a mandatory
Okay.
hire step
But
1.
1103 is a
1103, you can hire at top step if you
Exactly.
like. When I was hired as procurement director, I was hired at top step.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'm sorry to have to do this, but we will recess at 6:14 and reconvene at 6:30.
Sounds good.
Okay, we are reconvening at 6:30, and up next is the building department. Mr. Spryer? No. Lloyd. Thank you.
Turn your mic on.
There you go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name's Lloyd Adams. I'm the deputy building official. Here with the budget that you all have in front of you. How can I help you? What would
Do you have anything that you want to present to the council, or do you just want to jump into questions?
Let's just jump into the questions. I have the same stuff that you have. I have nothing to give you. I do have some. Well, let's say I have some stuff to give you. We have revenue. As you know, the building department creates revenue. So our revenue year to date this year is $1,796,000.
Lloyd, can you say that number again, please?
Sure.
Sorry.
Net total fees, $1,796,778. That's our revenue year to date. Last year at this time, our revenue was $1,644,580. So we're a little above what we had last year. Last year, our total revenue was $1,796,778.
Isn't that what you just said with our revenue to
Oh, is it?
date?
Wrong page. I'm sorry, year to date. Last year was $2,000,000. I apologize. $2,443,643.
And that was the
our-
2023
that's our
totals?
Fiscal year totals. So I was just comparing last year's to now, as last year's to this same date, to this year's, and then our last year total. So I have all of that. So to go forward on that, our total budget that we're asking for, we in fact cover that cost in a quarter.
Has the
Most
mayor's
years.
new initiatives in the building department, which will hopefully drive up the revenue, has those taken effect yet, or are they still a work in
The
progress?
initiatives are that she's opened the department an hour early to help with the contractors so that they can go to work earlier. We were open at 9 o'clock. She changed it to 8. It works for people, and we're there. The other initiative is she has the fire marshal in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in case somebody comes in and they need fire marshal advice. They don't have to go to the different areas, meaning Admiral Street or Ocean Avenue or over here on Elm Street. So they have them right here in the city hall. So they sit in our office during the permit hours in the morning between 8 and 11:30. So we expanded our permit hours an hour. Does it increase our revenue? I don't think so. I think it just makes it more convenient for everyone, and their people are happy. It seems to be working well.
Councilwoman Heffernan.
What do you think the breakdown is of your revenue? Is it mostly reviewing site plans, or is it permits, or what?
Our revenue is all permits,
All permits? You
all
don't-
permit fees.
And you don't
we
get
don't
site
we
plan?
don't we don't charge a
overview?
separate fee for plan review. We include it in the fee that we have. If there comes a time when the permit applicant comes in with a what do you want to say, a major set of documents, we can charge the applicant the fee for the plan review. But for the most part, we try to handle it. And the city's the contractors are receptive to that. We do a pretty extensive plan review. It takes us a lot of time. We have
Do others,
$1 million projects that have plans that are quite large. We're trying to transition between paper plans and electronics. So I have a monitor at my station that's a large monitor that I can draw on and do plan reviews on, and electronically go back and forth with the people, and it works out well for us.
Do other municipalities charge for site plan reviews?
Site plan review is something that's done by zoning,
Okay.
not by the building.
Okay.
Other municipalities, I can't attest to all of them, but there are municipalities that charge a plan review fee, but their permit fees are less. Okay, and that's my experience as a contractor, which I was for 25 years. I've been in the city for 23 years now, doing as a building official.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set? Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Lloyd. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. It's glad to hear with the revenue and stuff, and I was going to ask that question. Is it, obviously from the permits and with the fees that went up, but you said the fees we haven't put them into play yet?
Oh, no, those are in
they've
play.
been
I'm
in
sorry
play,
if I
okay.
neglected that. We increased the fees
You did? Okay, good.
to $25 per thousand. We base it on the value of the work. So I have a project coming up right now that's a $5 million project. And if you do the math, 5,000 times 25 is, I don't know, I'd have to do it, but it's a substantial amount of money. And that covers the inspection, the time for us to go out and do inspections. It covers the cost to do the plan review and the administrative part of putting the stuff into our software.
And the other thing I had was your department was requesting 5 assistant building officials and 1 property maintenance, and the mayor's recommending 4 building officials.
Mm-hmm.
With the one that is. Why did you request 5?
It's what we've had previously. It is something that we would really, really need. We're working with a very, very short staff to try to accomplish the work of a larger staff that we should have, so that we can work a normal workday instead of working long extended hours to try to accomplish things. We get called out on emergencies and stuff like that, and limited staff to do that as well.
But adding that property maintenance that was going to be added on in your suggestions anyways,
The
correct?
property maintenance building inspector is staffed right now. We
You have that.
have that man on staff. It could be a man or a woman, but it happens to be a man. One of the assistant building officials was removed and put into another clerical,
It was put into the facilities manager position.
facilities manager position. That's where they
So
did it. So
The job that went from 5 to 4,
right.
that job went,
To fund the facilities manager position.
okay.
Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
And what department, is that same department?
falls in building maintenance now.
Oh, so that is,
That's in public
Oh,
works.
That'll be
that's
public
in Public
works. yeah.
Works now, okay,
Mm-hmm.
good.
So that's where I went. It went
I
from
gotcha.
there to
Okay.
there.
Thank
So
you.
Went out of ours.
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
Lloyd, I'd like to follow up a little bit on the staffing levels before we go
Sure.
to the other administrative budget items.
Mhm.
What does the property maintenance building inspector do? I see that the position was funded in fiscal year 23, removed in 24, and is now being added. Is that correct?
History, and I'm not 100% clear on history, but we had 3 property maintenance inspectors on our staff that worked through the building department. I can even state their names if you'd like to have it, but it was Mike McCurry, Tom Riley. There was Frank Bianca was there. Another guy, I can't think of his name right now. But we had 3 property maintenance inspectors that worked directly under the building department. that field got moved to Public Works. So it's up in their department now, property maintenance inspectors. But we have a property maintenance building inspector who actually does the work inside the buildings. What does that mean? That means if somebody calls up with a maintenance complaint that the landlord isn't fixing the broken water pipe or something of that sort, that doesn't go under property maintenance, but however, it goes under our property maintenance building inspector. So this man is skilled in looking at construction and determining what's wrong, what needs to be fixed, and helping the tenant go after the landlord to get it done. So we look for compliance for the most part, and that's what that is, and that's why that stays in the building department, because they need our assistance at times. That man is not a credentialed person, if you want to call it that. He has a good resume, but he doesn't have a building official license. To be a building official, you have to be licensed with the state of Connecticut as well as an assistant building official. And you have to maintain hours of continuing education to keep your license. So I am a licensed building official with the state of Connecticut, working for the city of West Haven.
Regarding your staffing levels, if I looked at your backup sheet, there appears to be, at least when this document was generated, which I believe was around January, correct me if I'm wrong, there are a number of vacancies, especially at the ABO level. Are those positions now filled, or do you still have a number of vacancies in the department?
We'll have, with the 4 coming, we'll have 2 vacancies.
So you have two, you presently have two.
We have 2 ABOs, we have a BO, and we have a property maintenance building inspector. So at the time, when we get to the 4 level, which is what the department needs, and we've worked with that all along. But what happens is people come here, they work, and they get a better offer, and they move on. So that happens.
So just
not
to make sure
only
I'm
here.
so just to make sure I'm clear.
Sure. Yep.
You have 2
2 assistant building
assistant,
field,
and you have 2 vacancies
and I have
at
2
that
vacancies
level.
right now. Yep.
And are they currently posted?
Yes. Yes, they're trying very hard to fill these positions, but
And any
the
bites?
salary is, you would have to ask Mr. Spryer. But no, I haven't had anything that's come in that's been viable. They have to be licensed, you know, and there's a lot of them advertised out there for much higher salaries than what West Haven pays.
Can you give me a general idea of what much higher means?
$20,000 more. We had a
So you're in the 90s, they're in the 90s?
Yeah, we had a the salaries that are posted are the step 4, the high step. People coming in would start at step 1, which would be less than, and that's what it gets advertised as, and that's what deters them. Some people come. The people that leave are being offered, $15,000-$20,000 more a year.
Okay, so I was gonna ask you a silly question
Sure.
of if we needed
No
the
questions are silly, sir.
if you needed the 5th building official, but it sounds like you need the 2 that you have budgeted now.
We
and
would
then-
love to just have those 2.
just
That
want
would
those
be
2.
a great
Okay.
start, and see how that goes. Yeah.
Okay. Before I move on to the other administrative costs, does anybody else have any questions for what's that? Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Lloyd. How are you?
Good, Michelle.
So those positions, would you say approvals of permits have fallen behind because of those vacancies?
We are behind, but we work hard to catch up.
Of course.
And then every day we come to work, we get behind again, and then we work hard. we go to catch up, and it just depends on how the day goes. Our days are never fixed. We don't know how many people are coming in for applications. We don't know what we're going to get called to on any given day. But it's the job. It's if you're staffed and you have the people to attend to things, you have time to do the administrative stuff. We're working on getting a program that would lessen that, but of course the program costs money, so
What
you're
program
doing
is that?
It's a software to do permits online, so that people don't have to come here. They can do it online. Right now, the way we do it online is they scan and email the stuff to the building department. It's a special email, which goes to all the building inspectors. But we have to download it, print it, review it, all this other stuff. Whereas the software is a plug and play type thing where you have to fill out all the stuff before it even gets there. So the way we do it now, they scan it, they email it, and then we have to look at it. We have to call them or email them back, say you're missing this, you're missing that, so on and so forth. Whereas the software, you wouldn't have to do that. You wouldn't be able to hit the next button unless you filled out all this stuff. As you know, for a lot of things that you might fill out going forward. So we're looking forward to implementing something like that. Maybe Rick can respond to that a little
That
bit.
software upgrade is in page 126 of your budget in the capital request plan. Mitchell Humphrey software upgrade for $166,000.
That was my next question. I missed that in the cap. Sorry, thank you.
That's, by the way, that's a lot of municipalities use software like this. Whether it's Mitchell Humphrey or it's another name software, a lot of municipalities use this type of software. It just puts everything up. It saves money in the long run. You're not printing stuff out. We're keeping stuff electronic now. We don't have to do all of that. They can scan the plans, and everything can go right into that. So now it's all electronic, and I can put up on my monitor, do this, and move on. You know, it's really looking forward to getting to that level.
And it increases the efficiency. So if anyone is looking to build something, you know, it can go through the process that much more efficiently, quickly, well
Absolutely,
documented.
they will know. They will know what they're missing right away.
Right.
And yeah, it's just much easier. A lot of the simple permits, if you want to call it permit, simple permit, like I'm going to replace the roof on this house, that doesn't take long. But what takes long is well, they didn't put down how they're going to do it. They didn't put this down. They didn't give me their registration as a home improvement contractor. Oh, by the way, I need your workers' comp insurance. You know, but all of those things get eliminated with the software because, like I say, you can't push the next button unless you put that in there.
Right. Exactly.
So it makes us much more efficient. Absolutely.
What's your average approval time right now for
It's-
larger scale projects? Let's just
That'd be a hard thing to say. We are required by state statute to either approve or deny an application in 30 days. So that's the law. Okay.
So for a large scale development, even.
For a large scale project, we would have to do it within 30 days. And we can approve it, or we can say we need more information and continue with the review. We wouldn't stop the review. But if you're talking about somebody going to replace their deck or something like that,
Right.
we've got to turn that over. I mean, this is something that is regulated by statute. So 30 days is your...
Thank you. In your mind, having the daily experience, are there any additional opportunities for revenue you think we might be missing?
I can't say there are. If there were, we would certainly be going after them.
Sure.
No, we're right where we need to be as far as the permit fees right now. I believe we're in line with what it's costing and so on and so forth, and what the services are that we're providing them. There's no other fees that I think we could charge at this time.
Okay. That's all from me for now. Thanks, Lloyd.
Thanks, Michelle.
Lloyd, going back to page 126, the 5-year capital budget, the two items that are in this department. The plan is $180,000 in the upcoming fiscal year, and then another $180,000. Is that a licensing fee?
Every person that logs into this system, and by the way, I don't know how this is split up in your capital budget. I didn't do that, but this is going to be for every department. Mm-hmm. You talking about scanning archives?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the.
Oh, I apologize.
The software. Okay. So our scanning archives are. I gotta look at this. What he has in here. 10 years at a time, 180,000.
That's in line with
So what we're doing is we're trying to get our stuff digitized. So right now we have files and files that we're required, again, by statute to keep. So every commercial building permit that is out there has to be kept by the municipality forever. Every municipal or every residential permit, we have to keep on file for 3 years, and then we can discard it. So anybody coming in that wants the information, they can have it. So getting it digitized would be, other than paying a storage facility like Iron Mountain, we wouldn't have that anymore. It would be digitized. I have a safe down in my office where we have 2 years at this time scanned, and the stuff is in the safe. So that's what that's about. We're trying to get rid of all the paper and put it into a scanning mode.
So when the documents are digitally archived, they're archived locally here in the building?
Yeah.
And is there a backup somewhere?
Doesn't need to be if it's in a fireproof safe.
Okay.
We're hoping down the road, this is IT, we're hoping to just get it up into the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Okay? So that's the plan. But for now, we have the process going. That's where we're getting it on discs, and I have it in a big fireproof safe in my office. So.
And if I look further down on the on that list,
Mm-hmm.
under IT, it's the Mitchell Humphrey software upgrade. That's what you're talking about with the permit software.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
So for FY this coming budget, 166,000, and then it's 41 for 2 years, and then it's 30 and 31. Do you know? Does anybody know if those are licensing fees or is that implementation costs?
So some of them are implementation costs by department. So it's front end. It's loaded on the front end for department implementation, and then after that, it's all licensing fees. After that, so by year 2, we hope to have every department that needs permitting software to have that, and then just licensing fees after that.
How many departments would require this?
That's kind of what we're assessing now. I mean, building, health, public works, park and rec, assessors.
So it's all permits. It's
any permits, anyone that comes in for a permit, and we had a big demonstration on it today. So it's a very comprehensive software package that we think is just going to be able to be. The good thing about it is that any department can log on to it and see whatever notes are put onto any department, any address, any file. So,
and as well, the public. This will be loaded on our website, and the public can access files and information that right now they send in FOI requests. I spend a tremendous amount of time doing FOI requests. Are there any open permits on this property, on that property, and so on and so forth, because we're going to sale. They never did that. Probably started about 3 or 4 years ago, but now they all got to get closed.
Yep. So. And then I assume that at some point in the future, it doesn't look like in the near future, but at some point, the licensing fees or the maintenance costs for this program is going to have to be built into somebody's budget, whether I was operating for the citywide operating budget, because it's a citywide.
Yeah,
product.
it's a citywide program. Yeah.
I don't know which departments need it more and how many licenses each department needs, because we want them to be licensed by user, not by department.
Right. Gotcha.
Right. And it is licensed by user. That's how the fees are based.
I'm going to turn back to page 48 of the budget. Line item 52590, demolition of buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Is that demolition cost of city buildings or third-party private owner buildings?
That in the building department budget is in case we have to take a building down.
Because it's been deemed.
Because the building official deems it not uninhabitable, in imminent danger of collapse is the word we have to use. Uninhabitable doesn't take a building down. But,
Yep.
but
That number
yes.
seems a little low to me. I'm not an expert, but is 9,000 appropriate for? I don't know how often you have to do that.
I've got
Okay.
I've got 9,000.
Yeah, 9,000.
Okay, I thought you said 5.
No, 9.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
last year we didn't have to do it. So far.
Yeah, so far we haven't had to do it, but we do need something there because that is part of my duties or the building department's duties, not me personally, in case it happens.
Looking at the overtime item 51500. In 23, the budget was, I'm just going to use round numbers, 22,000. 24 it's 7,500. The up to January it was almost 13, and the projection is a little bit over 22. And the recommended budget is going back to the original 7,500. And if I look at the backup, your 3-year average is 15,000, almost 15,700. My understanding was that the overtime was funded due to the non-filling of the ABOs. If you fill the ABOs, do you think that that'll drive down your overtime?
I don't want overtime. I want to fill those positions. I want to go home to my family. I want to do stuff. Some overtime is required. We get called to emergencies. We go to fires. We go to the car hit the building. We go to all of those things. We get called. And that puts us into overtime. So we do need some overtime, but that's where we'll go back to the 7,500.
And one more question on the demolition of buildings. My understanding is that the city has the ability to go after the property owner for our out-of-pocket expenses.
Absolutely.
When we, so is that? I'm assuming that's common practice. So we'll expend whatever it is, but we will seek reimbursement from the owner.
You can lien the property provided you have an owner, somebody to go after.
Right.
You know, or you lien it, and then the new owner is going to pay the lien to get the property. So,
right.
But yes, general statutes allow us to lien properties when we do stuff like that, but we need the funding to get it done.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Garthwaite, sorry.
Hi, Louie.
Hi.
Just to expand on Councilman Vargo's questions, you had, we had $4,795.71 as actual expenses for demolition of buildings, but we didn't take down any buildings last year. Do we know what that?
That's FY23. FY24 we have. So for year to date we haven't taken down any buildings.
I thought you said last year we didn't
So
have any.
it says
I'm sorry. I mean this year's budget. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
This year's budget we haven't taken down any buildings.
Okay, so this was last
Wait, can I
year.
just ask you to, so that way you're on the mic?
I apologize. This year's budget we haven't taken down. When I say last year, I meant last budget year.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So we had, I guess, what, one taken down last in FY23?
I'm sorry, I don't know what that one was. I could look that up and get you an answer. but
Okay, that would be
I
great.
don't
I'm
know.
just curious.
I don't know right now.
Yeah.
I don't recall which one it was.
Okay.
That's not a very large number.
No, it's not. Not
you
at
know,
all.
So it could have been a garage. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, I think it might have been a garage on White Street
Garage on White
that
Street.
we had removed.
Okay.
All right, but
All right.
that's not a very big number.
No,
a
it's
very
not.
big
I was just
building.
curious because I heard that we didn't.
Yeah.
That's why I asked the question.
Yep.
Councilwoman Callahan?
Hi, Lloyd. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
My question is going back. I know you have some open positions and that you guys are stretched, obviously, right now. When those positions are filled, hopefully sooner than later, will that help alleviate? Will one of those positions, or maybe one existing now, will it balance out for you to make everybody's life easier to have someone designated as the administrative part of it? Because I know you referred back to that several times about having to
did.
have to go back to the administration, and it would make sense that if you had someone to just you do your the footwork and then that other person, would that help if one of those positions are filled?
It would certainly help, but what it would do is it would have that person doing the footwork, and the building official or deputy building official doing the administrative stuff. So right now, I'm doing administrative as well as footwork, and the rest of the staff is doing that too. They're pitching in here, pitching in there, doing footwork. But you know, when you have the right staff, if the building official can do the administrative stuff and
Right.
work diligently on the plan review,
Right. That's what I thought you meant, and that
Yeah.
would help you so much.
it would help us tremendously.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Lloyd, as I'm looking at your budget compared to some of the others,
Mhm.
it seems to me that yours is very efficient. And I say that because yours is only a 0.6 increase. You're tracking really well on your 3-year averages. And I'm assuming that's just a testament to the leadership of your department. Are you comfortable with these numbers?
I am.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm comfortable with these numbers, yes.
Any other questions?
And yes, I want to just say one more thing.
Sure.
Frank Gladwin, terrific leader, the building official, and the testament goes to him and our whole department for what we're trying to do
Absolutely.
for the city of West Haven,
Thank
the
you.
betterment of them.
Any other questions for Lloyd on the building department? Seeing none, we will now move on to planning and zoning.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Lloyd.
You're welcome.
So we are now on page 46 of the budget.
All right. Yes, we're done enough.
Right? Let me just pull that over.
Thank you so much.
So you won't get-
Good evening, City Council. My name is Catherine Coniff. I am the Assistant City Planner. I am here to give you my budget for the year. Would you like me just to start with the wages first?
Please.
Would that sound good?
Please, thank you.
All right. For this year, I know the mayor's trying to hire an economic developer, and community planning and development, and a project manager, which is not has not been nobody's been hired for those positions yet. And myself, this is my pay. We usually do contractual increases, which this is our year to come back. And we have, I'm going to go to my secretary, who has been there for me for 16 years, doing a great job, and my zoning officer. I have 2 positions there. I would like to speak upon what you were asking building official Adams about property maintenance. When I became a property maintenance, building official Gladwin hired me, and I had 2 other property maintenance people working with me. We divided it up into 3 sections in the town. We had Allentown, we had the Center District, and then there was West Shore District, just like the way the fire department's divided. I was in West Shore. That was the toughest one because everybody wants it done right now. But the other, the way we divided it was like, so whenever there was a call, somebody had a complaint, that person would go out. If they got inundated with a ton of questions or complaints, we would work together. Recently, we've had nobody doing property maintenance. So I'm sending my zoning officer out to get grass. I'm telling him he's got to, tell people, to pick up their trash, do this, do that. When I was there, my title was zoning enforcement or property maintenance zoning enforcement. Property maintenance, there's a certain code that they have that we follow. It's the international code. And zoning regulations is a book this thick that we have to follow also. So when there's somebody parking on the grass, that's a zoning regulation. They could take care of that out in the field. My zoning officer currently now has the position of inland wetlands. So he's a zoning officer inland wetlands. This will all be taken care of at some point. I hope on our budget, we have to discuss this through negotiations. But I can't tell you enough how important it is for us to have property maintenance. We are getting calls I went out with my zoning officer a couple of times just to get down to the center to, talk to them about, who can, what kind of lights you have on, what's flickering, what's, the signs, the windows. We just did it as, we collaborated together and went out and we just got it done. We were able to do it in 2 days just going down the center district. Very productive. We've had, I feel we've had a lot of merchants. They followed right away. They pulled stuff down as we talked. They called us the next day, come in, please see it, because they were nervous about it. So that position, I know it's more money, but it is really important for our city because that is the biggest complaint we have here is when we have somebody that doesn't respect their neighbor, okay? We need 3 at least. We have somebody in Public Works that goes out, our building official, code enforcer, he goes out a couple times a week. So really, right now, I look at it as we only have in our city 1 code enforcement
I'm sorry, Ms.
officer.
Koff, can I just interrupt for one quick second? What position in the budget are you speaking of?
Zoning, it says zoning code enforcement officer.
Okay, so we presently have 1, and the
We're
budget
asking
request is
for 2.
you're asking for 1 more.
1 more.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to tell you the history because I know Mr. Adams was trying to tell you, but we used to have 3 and we were all governed by the building officials, and that's how we worked it. We all have a different district that we could, that we would be in charge of, be driving around looking, even if we didn't get a complaint. It's a lot easier when here comes bulk trash this week. We are going to get 1 million calls because people are going to put mattresses out. They're going to put TVs out. We did one great thing in Public Works. I do remember we had this big discussion. We needed to have bulk trash first and then electronics. It was opposite because when they leave the electronics, we could tell them, next week you just made it. You can go bring it up to the barn to get rid of them. So I thought that was a great plan. We all thought about it. Let's do it. And those are the budgets that we have in for our financials, I guess, our wages. But I can't. It would be ideal if we can go back to that. But the one woman we do have doing it right now, she's doing it all by herself. And my zoning officer also does, like I said, wetlands, which is a whole nother commission he has to be with. He's got to do zoning. He's in the office all the time, meeting with people. Him and I are like a team because we have to be. I'm the planner. He's the zoning officer. We both follow our book. So I would really suggest, I would hope that we could put that into our budget. So we're going to go down to.
Could we pause there and so I can see if the council has any questions about the
sure.
staffing before we go
Yeah.
elsewhere? Any questions from Ms. Conniff on the staffing? Councilman Donovan?
I guess, how are you? You were mentioning the zone code enforcer. I agree. And I'm looking here, the request was only 1 person, but the mayor's recommend is 2. So I agree with that we need more. The one that you have is doing a good job, the other, and Ms. Lopez is doing a phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fun.
But she's
phenomenal
only
job.
one person. You
Correct.
need boots on the ground. That's what I.
No, 100%. So
You know?
I do agree with that. Also, in the planning, you guys have. The good thing is that we're looking at getting the economic developer, which I believe is coming up very soon, hopefully, I believe, and also the project manager. I think that's a tag team, if I understand this correctly. But so that'll be good that you're getting both of them as well, which is going to boost. So I see no major issues here with your budget at all with when it comes to that. I'm going to leave some of the questions for the other ones that asked. I know Councilwoman Garthwaite had a couple questions, and I'll let her ask that. But the other one was so in this budget, 52385, that's the economic developer consultant. You're requesting the 100, but because it is adding up to here at 110, that's why the mayor recommended 0, right? Because it's going to be there.
Yes.
The other part. So good. All right. I'm all set for now. Thank you.
So when we hear from our constituents, the colloquial term of blight officer, that's the code enforcement
Yes.
person, and that's Miss Lopez, correct?
Yes.
So so what you're asking is to have another person. Is that job more reactive or proactive? Would you say
Reactive.
reactive?
Yeah.
So someone calls with a complaint, the individual's then sent out to assess the situation.
Right. And like I said before, it was when we had 3 of them, we were able to, you got your complaints, you went out, you addressed them, but you also could find things when you're driving around. But now you have one person driving around and you find you're only going for that one complaint until. And like I said, wait till bulk trash is this week.
I will say that Kathy's done a great job with Steve Hotchkiss, who's her zone enforcer, with the window tinting and the neon lights that we had. Steve walks up and down Campbell Avenue. He goes out, and he's very proactive on that. It is a very reactive job, but she's got Steve being very proactive on that. So we are kind of trying to change the model a little bit.
Thanks, Rick.
Councilwoman Heffernan.
So, when we were discussing the blight officer, they were saying that, we weren't really able to enforce anything because we didn't have a way to appeal it. Who is looking at those appeals?
Well, we did. The mayor just put in Artie Penna. He's going to be our appeal officer.
Okay.
So whenever we finally get to that point, he'll be the one that hears the application.
Well, you have to be involved in that too, though.
Absolutely. Whoever put the fine or the complaint in about someone, they have to have documentation. You do a violation first, then you do a cease and desist, and then that would go, and they usually when the people aren't or going to, or they will do it. You try to be flexible. You try to work with them. Do we want everybody to be going to the hearing officer? Probably not. But if we know they're going to do it, and they say I need one more week is what we're going to go with.
There's some flexibility.
What was that?
There's some flexibility.
You have to be flexible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a little confused on the different staffing positions based on the budget and the backup page. So, Mr. Hotchkiss is listed as the zone code enforcement officer, but I thought that was Lori Lopez.
Lori Lopez is housed in Public Works. Steve
Gotcha.
Hotchkiss is zone.
Okay, that makes sense. And we presently don't have a commissioner of planning and development. That's still posted.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's an appointed position as well, the Commissioner of Planning and Development.
You listed one of your goals is to fill additional positions to help run the office more efficiently. Aside from what's in this budget, are there other positions that you foresee at some point in the future that are needed, or are you speaking of getting the enforcement officer, getting the director?
I think if we get all the above, you know what I mean. As in, we need an economic developer. That would be the person that's going out, maybe trying to, get people to come to our city. But this position for a zoning code enforcer, it's probably the most important one. That it would free up my zoning officer, wetlands. I know nobody sees that in this budget, but that is, was a contractual thing before. We'll have that all straightened out at some point through the union. They're starting to work on this to get this done.
I think Councilwoman Garthwaite had a question first, and then.
Can I go to, you guys have asked all my questions in the staffing, but can I go to the planning and development administration, or you want to wait?
Can you just wait for 1 second? Councilwoman Heffernan and Councilwoman Coletti.
So will you be back up to 3? Not maybe in your budget, but I didn't realize the blight officer was in another budget. So you will be at your 3 desired people for your zone
I would say
officers.
I would be 1.5, because the other gentleman from building is code and building,
So they have more hats.
yeah, and then
Wetlands.
Steve, my zoning officer, is
The wetlands.
zoning code officer, wetlands. We'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Until-
So he's not really a whole person either.
He's three
I
people.
mean, I know he's a person. I mean, he's a whole person, but he's not only for those purposes. He's not the only one doing that job.
Yes, he is.
Right.
Steve is the only one as our zoning officer right now.
Okay. But I mean, he doesn't only do that. I mean, he's split.
Oh, he's split.
Right. You know what I mean? Am I wrong? Am I
No,
understanding it
you're
wrong?
right. He's
So
several jobs. He
So you don't
runs
really
two
have
commissions, wetlands and the ZBA commission.
so and Ms. Lopez is not in your budget. Is she under your
No,
purview?
she's not under our budget.
And
but-
she's not under your purview, or
No,
so
I don't know how that happened.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't either. I'm sorry. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Sorry. But anyway, thank you. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
No. Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you. Similar question. I just kind of wanted to clarify Ms. Lopez is considered. So on the line item, you have a zoning officer, which is
Stephen.
Stephen. Zoning enforcement officer, because it says zone/code enforce officer. So zoning enforcement officer is Steve.
Okay. I'm going to try to explain it.
Steven.
more. Right. Back when, and this is when I was hired, I was property maintenance / zoning.
Sure.
Okay. The state requires someone to be a wetlands agent. So our zoning officer, who used to be Kevin Clark, used to be zoning enforcement property maintenance. So they figured if they took the property maintenance out and put inland wetlands in, he would be our zoning inland wetlands officer. And our property maintenance zoning was myself, we'll say. He was one thing, and so now everything was covered, along with myself and two other, I should say, property maintenance zoning officers, so they could go out and give a cease and desist on our zoning regulations also, besides the property maintenance code.
Got it. So this is one position expected to do zoning enforcement and code enforcement.
What I'm asking for, yes, that's what I would like.
Okay. Neither of those is a blight officer.
The code enforcement office is the blight. We changed that title to, I don't,
Okay.
code enforcement and blight, I
So that one position is currently Stephen.
correct,
And there would be another person that would also play a dual role.
yes.
Okay. And blight is handled under Public Works, who is currently Lori Lopez.
And it'll be handled under here too, blight. We will work that with them.
Okay, so it would be zoning/code enforcement /
Lori Lopez leads the way on blight, but all the zoning enforcement officers will contribute to that as well.
Got it. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
I'm glad you understand it because I'm a little I'm
It's
not following
something-
part of this.
I'm just going to be honest. It's been something our union is like, we need to address this issue and how people were hired and then their jobs were changed without coming to the union. So we're trying to get that all fixed up, and I'm hoping we will. I am, a representative for my union, so.
So could you try to explain to me? I'm sorry, one more time.
Yep.
What does Ms. Lopez do that is different and then the same as what your zone/code enforcement officers do? What's the difference in the jobs?
Public spaces? Yeah. Public spaces.
I think that's probably a better question for Mr. Sandella tomorrow night
Okay.
when he's here.
Okay.
It was told to the last council that Ms. Lopez they wanted to move her to Public Works because she was going to be everything from the door, the exterior door of your house, out to the curb. So that's why she was moved.
So blight defined as property, like grass property issues, exterior of buildings, maybe?
To be your code enforcement.
Right, all
Okay.
exterior. That's
Okay.
how it was explained to us.
And then your code enforcement officers are they exterior and interior or just interior?
We have one that's interior, that would be our building, which makes sense, because he does all the interior. And then these would be for the surrounding outside of your building.
how are those? I'm struggling with understanding how the two positions are going to work together in different departments. Am I missing something, or
So what Ms. Conniff's agents are is zoning agents. They are, your property is zoned for residential and you have commercial property trucks on your, then Steve would go and check that. If we put a zoning regulation that you can't have tinted windows and you can't have neon signs and things of that nature, then he would go and change those, follow those zoning regulations. So they're all working together for one common goal. Ms. Lopez handles from the front of your house to the street. Joe in building handles inside of your house, make sure that in the backyard, make sure that nothing's in blight situations that way. And Kathy's people will handle zoning regulations, making sure that you're following our zoning regulations.
so the rationale then is Ms. Lopez is dealing with the property itself, not the structures, but the property itself. That's why that position's under Public Works. And then these two are either building issues or
Zoning
issues, and that's why it's under this department.
Right. And then we just put Lori in charge of the overall blight and the overall aspect of blight. But she handles the public spaces because she's in Public Works. So the front of your house to the street is considered a public space. Anything on the back of your house that's concealed by your house, concealed by a fence, that's property maintenance. That's falls in the building department. Zoning enforcement falls under Kathy.
Will Ms. Lopez have any oversight of these individuals, or they're in separate departments?
No, they're separate departments.
So
yes.
even though they're working together and she kind of leads the initiative, so to speak.
Correct.
She doesn't have any managerial oversight.
No.
Okay.
And they do work all together, because like I said, we're struggling because we need more people. So the only way to make it work right now is to work together. Sorry.
So we're good with one Lori. You need two Stevens. Is that
Yeah.
basically? Okay.
Okay, we'll say that's 3.
That's 3. That's 3.
I'll
okay.
take it any way we can get it.
Okay. I just want to have Councilwoman Callahan and then Councilwoman Coletti.
Hi.
Hi.
My question's easy.
Okay, I'm going to take 2 of yours.
Yeah, okay. You take 2 of mine, 1 of his. The wetlands that you were talking about, is that, in your opinion, a full-time position for just that category for the wetlands?
Honestly, most municipalities has a full-time inland wetlands, like Milford. They have one, and there's down the shoreline. Stratford has one.
So it's basically shoreline communities.
Shoreline communities, because it's wetlands water course.
Okay.
So, most of the, all along the shore, we do have a lot of wetlands.
Sure.
But, right along the shore, that goes to DEEP. Like, we would address that as,
So that is considered basically just that is a full-time position.
I would say yes.
It's that involved.
It is. Yesterday we didn't have a meeting, but Wetlands meets every 3rd Tuesday. He's doing agendas. He's doing decisions. He's doing legal ads. He's meeting with people. And, when we do meet, that's what we look for. We see if you have wetlands, if you need a variance, and what is your plan. And, we sit down with people and we just talk about it and make a plan for them and how they're going to get approved. That's our job, to do a strong application for the applicant.
Okay. That's knowledgeable to know. Is wetlands also considered inland if there's water areas like lakes, ponds?
Yep.
Okay.
That's our water course part of it.
All right. So I was just curious if that's
Yep.
probably what you're, why everybody's so split, is that you need that to be basically a full-time
Right.
position. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you. Just a request, Kathy. Once everything is ironed out, would you mind sending over a job title and job description to us, just as a follow?
I will do a flow chart for you.
That would be great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, a cheat sheet would definitely be helpful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the personnel portion of the budget, or do you have anything that you want to add on the other administrative items?
Nope, that's fine, what we just spoke about. I think.
Okay. I do have some questions on the administrative portions, but does anybody have any questions they want to ask first? Councilwoman Garthwaite?
First of all, I want to say you guys do an amazing job, and
Thank you, ma'am.
Lori does an amazing job as well. You're always attentive. I know I have driven you guys crazy in the past, and the mayor has set up her new blight hotline, so a lot of my calls probably won't be happening to you guys much longer, but thank you for everything you guys do. I have a couple little tiny questions. In printing 52210, you have an increase of 2,400%. I'm just curious. It's a small number. It's $5,000, but I'm just curious what that might be.
I don't blame you. We did have a person in a position where they did all of our printing for us, and now that position's been eliminated. So we're going to have to outsource some things. Like when we do our zoning books, we update them constantly. New zoning regulations. We're really working on trying to just get the regular pages. Just you pull one page out, put the new regulation in. We have our plan of conservation and development. Those are kind of things that we're going to need printing at some point. And that'll be a big project we're going to start working on because we have to have it done by 2027. I'll probably be looking for someone from the council to be a liaison. And it's our master plan for the whole city. So.
Okay. Thank you. And then also underneath that 52250 advertising, I know you answered this last year.
No, that's fine.
I can't remember.
State statute requires us to do legal ads. We have to put 2 in. One, no more than 15, no less than 10. And then we have to do it like 2 days before the meeting, and then we have to do our decisions in the newspaper.
Okay.
The prices just keeps going up and going up.
Okay. Now I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. And when we do, if we change regulations, we have to advertise it, so it costs us money too. So we have to make sure we have those changes because we are making a lot of changes, positive changes.
Yes, I agree.
Through the mayor's initiative, I must say.
Yep. And then my last question, 56210 consultant. It looks like the mayor has taken that away. You were asking for 10,000. What is that exactly for? Was that
the economic development consultant?
Oh, okay.
We currently have one right now working. If I'm not mistaken, that's what this one is.
Okay.
He's been helping us out. Actually, he's been helping me out because I've been missing a lot of people, and for the last 4 years, we haven't, an economic developer we had, and then he left, and it's just been constant.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Councilman McMillan? Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you. Kathy, when we spoke about updating the zoning map with all of the zoning changes that had happening, you mentioned it was a little bit cost prohibitive to do it, update it as the changes were happening in real time. Where does that? It doesn't fall under printing because it would just be kind of an update on a PDF. Where would that fall in this budget?
For the like when we do that, I would do that as just map printing, because we don't do it all the time. I try to just do it once a year and bring it up to date when like UNH sometimes comes in. I hate picking on them. They come in and they will change their zone from a neighborhood business to a public facility, which they are. So,
right. Would there be a way to do it? What's the average cost of updating the
I think it
zoning
cost
map?
us $600 the last time we did it.
Okay. And the only reason I say that is hand in hand with economic development, as businesses are looking at regulations in certain zones, their first stop is probably going to be our website with our zoning map. And if they think that they can't do something in a certain zone where they really could because the regulation changed, but it's not being advertised, I think it might be a missed opportunity.
Yep.
So would there be any way, or that would be up to you and your department, obviously, to do it more frequently, but it would be covered by the economics within this budget.
Right. I guess it would be like when we changed the zone down at the beach to SD, our shoreline design, we already changed that. there was a little mistake that it's supposed to go over where the properties just past the ball fields, just a few. It only went along the bottom. The GIS missed it, but we are aware of that right now, and that needs to be changed. But if it's something big, like say if when the Haven came in, you'd want that done pretty quick. But if it's, I'll go back to UNH. I'm not picking on them. But, they do a couple of properties at a time, so it would be better just to wait for the full year to do it. I think it would be depending on what was changed. If it was for big development that that was coming, that we thought that zone would be right for it, then we could change that. We can get it changed right away.
Okay, because when I had looked at the one that's online now, I thought there were a few major changes that hadn't made it in yet. So that's the only reason I was saying I think.
Please
maybe
talk to me about that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That was it for me for now.
Yeah. Any map change is usually put in the back of the zoning regulations, which you could see online. For every time we do one, we try to put them back there so you could see what was changed.
But typically the PDF version matches the GIS version for those that don't have access to the GIS. But the GIS is updated first.
Well, the zoning regulations is the best.
Okay. Right. But when the regs refer to a certain zone, then the map boundaries have to match.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
And you said that updating the map is about $600.
It's about $600 for.
How often does that typically get done in a year, if you had to guess?
Well, we were just saying it was probably, and we were talking about item map printing for the $1,000. That's why I said we usually do it once a year, just to, make sure. But if we have a big project and it needs to be done, that the city feels that we should change the zone, we should probably change it right away.
So you sort of use your discretion depending on how large the change is or how impactful the change is. If it's
absolutely
minor, no, it's only going to affect a small subset of people.
Just a small person or, small group that, but we keep track of it. Like I said, we do put them in the back of our zoning regulations. There's actually a text amendment and zone map change in the back. We try to label, short and sweet, but it tells you where you could find that too.
Okay. I'd like to ask about a couple of just specific line items on the administrative budget on page 47.
Mm-hmm.
The archiving services 52425. Is that paper archiving or are you digitizing?
We're trying to do digital also. We have, as the building department, we have to keep any variance special permit for a lifetime, and so it would be best if we could get it all digital. And right now we pay Iron Mountain to store some of our stuff, and that's a big expense. And I think if we could put it all into the digital, the cloud, it would work a lot easier.
Is there an opportunity to piggyback with the building department since that's the direction they're going in?
We kind of do. We kind of work because it's our stuff, their stuff. So you have to keep planning and zoning separate from. But they put their stuff in Iron Mountain, and we put ours. We have to send it with them also.
Yeah, it'll be the same company when we bid it out. It'll be the same company. So the cost for building is higher because there's much more documentation.
I guess the one thing I probably should have said last time, but what makes me a little nervous is we're digitizing. It's going onto a hard drive or whatever it is that we're using. I understand that if something happens to the building,
it is not going onto a hard drive. It's going cloud-based.
It is going cloud-based.
Yeah.
That alleviates my concern. Thank you. Looking at item 52210, printing. Also the advertising 52250 and 52382, engineering cost planning and development. I only bring these up because I tend to look closely at the 3-year budget averages, and it seems that, and you explained the printing, but the 3-year averages are a lot lower than what's being asked for. Do you see any way that we could have some cost savings on those, or do you see projects coming up that that these additional expenses are going to be needed?
I think we would need more. We have, if you, like, you put in engineering costs with that also. So I'm looking at, like, I know my harbor commission's been working for years to do something with a boat ramp. And we've done feasibility studies. So when it comes time to do some engineering, we may need that money.
Okay.
If they need it, and because the first thing they want money for is to dredge, and that probably won't even touch it, but it might be something we can move towards it.
So going to printing, and I realize it's only $5,000, but your in FY23 was $53. We budgeted $200. We're projecting to come in below that, and the request is $5,000. Is that because we have additional projects that you foresee are going to have to be advertised or printed, and printing costs are going up?
We do. I think I did mention, like, the plan of conservation. That's coming up. It'll be cost saving if we do the print, or we're going to have to put it out to bid because it's it's our plan. We did have a consultant that helped us last time, and that was all included, but we don't know that for a fact. Our zoning books, and we have our TOD, the Transit Orientated District, that we need to sometimes get those printed out. Not often, but we do that kind of money, though, sending it out, because we got rid of the position. It's getting tough.
As you can tell from those huge packets in front of all of you, not everyone likes digital copies of things. So we do have to put printing into our budget, just because some people do like paper copies of things. So.
Hands on.
Any questions? All set? Oh, Councilwoman Coletti?
Thank you. Is any part of your current budget utilizing any of the ARPA funds that you think would be beyond a one-time use?
Not that I am aware of that they were.
Okay. And then, just one question: what's the 25,000 under property management?
Oh, the property manager, that is for when we lean and clean, we have to pay our vendors. So the vendors goes out, he cleans it, and we lean it. And when you lean it, we get it back when there's either a sale or, we always get that back, though.
Got it.
But we need it to pay our vendors when they do go out.
Got it. And then 52285. Okay, that was answered. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy.
Any other questions for Kathy?
I just have if you don't mind.
Not at all.
I wanted to just talk about, like, the building department was just here. I'll try to make it quick because I know it's, we work like hand in hand with them. Anytime somebody comes in, the project starts between zoning and building, and we always sit down with the applicants, who's signing what, who's looking at the plans, and then we come up with a plan for that developer or that person. The initiative that the mayor did start with I find that some of the contractors are very happy because they don't want to get off a roof, come down and do, go get a permit while somebody's stopping them to say, hey, you don't have a permit. So I think that's really good. And that program that we talked about, it's a Mitchell Humphrey put out this product. We've been using it in the building and zoning office. And we bought the license back in 1990, and we've never upgraded it. So it's an excellent program, and now the way that we learned today, it's going to be outstanding for each department to be able to go on there and look. Like, instead of sending my, someone that does come in, you got to go ask the health department to sign this off. Go to the fire marshal. The police department needs to sign off on it. Zoning's over here, assessor's there, clerk's there. We could do this by taking it in and sending it to everyone, and everybody knows that these are coming, and they will look at it. It's very efficient. I was very impressed by the program today, and I think it's something that you should look at and think about. It'd be nice to know what the health department's doing, because we work very close with them. Especially property maintenance, they need to know, if something was shut down and why are they open, and we talk, and it's good. So, well, I thank you. If you have no more
I
questions.
just have one more question. We hear, publicly a lot from contractors that it's sometimes difficult to get things through the building department to be able to start their projects on time. And I think that software is really going to help alleviate that burden because it takes a lot of the manpower out of the equation. It's more automated. Is there anything else administratively that you could think of that you would need in that office to make it more efficient or make it so that the business owners or the applicants can be serviced faster and be able to move on with their projects?
Of course, staffing, we know that. But I'm going to be honest, when they come in and you want a roof, you want to put windows in, you want to put siding on, you walk out that day with that permit. As long as you show that you are you're insured, and there's like 3 or 4 things, but some contractors just know what they need and they bring it all in. We don't make them wait if they're standing at the counter. And how many times, here, let me just get my secretary to email it to you. You okay with that? Of course we're okay with that, because we can go shut the job down if we don't get it. You know what I mean? We don't do that. They put everything through. Simple permits we do. It's when it comes to, like, I want to put up a house. That's a totally different permit, and 30 days, it's very rare that can, I feel. I mean, I know they have to, but we just say, you need this, you need this, you need it. You need to go to zoning, you need to go to wetlands, you need to go, you got to show us site plans and, how many floors. And so I think it's running efficient, but, this program here, getting people to get online, make their own little, set up their own, login, and they can, take permits out all day long. And if they send everything that they know they need, they're going to get them, and they can go right to work the next day.
Sounds great. If there's nothing further, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You as well. And next up is Parks and Rec, not the television show. This starts on page 90 of our budget books. Good evening, Mr. Payne. How are you? Good, thank you. Hold on one second. We're going to take a 3-minute recess.
So I had sent, I don't know if you have it, but I had sent a full budget proposal with all the worksheets on PDF. Did you
Yes,
get that?
we did.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And what you have is,
I'm sorry. I just want to say we're back on the record at 7:46. Go ahead.
the worksheets I gave you are revenue. One of them is year to date, and then the second one is revenue full year for the last fiscal year. And the other is a current line item balance for all of our entire budget.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head what page your income is on the budget?
In the mayor's proposal, I have no idea where it shows. What I gave you for revenue is a representation of our programming only. We generate revenue for permitting and for field usage. That gets sent over to Public Works, and it covers the overtime. And then there's other revenue like beach parking revenue, which I don't see at all anymore. I'm very happy that it's quite substantial now, but I don't know exactly what it is or who gets credit for it, but
Okay. Before we dive into questions, do you have anything that you want to present to us aside from the income?
no, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and go over any specific items you have.
Okay. I have a bunch, but does anybody have any questions for Mr. Payne? We're on page 90, starting on page 90. So one of these marks is year to date.
Correct. And the
Numbers?
other is for the last full fiscal year. And again, it's so we should generate well over $300,000 just in programming revenue this year. And again, that doesn't include field usage, picnics, permitting, beach parking, any of those. It's strictly recreation programming.
Okay, who would like to kick off questions? Councilwoman Garthwaite and then Councilwoman Callahan.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mel.
I have a quick question about the administrative secretary. There is a 24.3% increase. Is that contractual or is that a new hire or?
So I think it is just a difference in the way the budget proposal was put together. I think last year it was the actual, and Marianne was in her first year with us, so she was at step one. And generally in the past, we've always put the salaries at the top step in case someone leaves and someone bids in and they're at a higher step and you're covered. And then the other thing is it helps cover the working out of classification type of extra money, extra salary money. So my guess is that that's just represents step 4 for that position.
Okay.
There was no raise or upgrade or anything to that extent.
Right. It just jumped out at me because it's rather high. That's all. So, okay, that's it. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. And it appears to be, it may actually be a little high because I think the disparity between the program account clerk and the administrative secretary is a little more than $5,000 actually. So we could look at that.
So the number on your personnel breakdown for Marianne, that's the actual number?
So the requested and the recommended came off of a worksheet we got from finance, and if I remember correctly, when I got it, there was a question as to the formula or what was actually going in. It's certainly more than enough to cover it.
I mean, the difference is only it's less than $6,000.
Would be well under that, yeah. I'm thinking more like 2 or 3.
Okay. Are you all set? Councilwoman Callahan.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
Good. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. So, one question I had to start out with was with the new fee with the band concerts.
Yes.
Is that an expense?
So that was something that years ago was in the recreation budget, and then as personnel moved on, some of the money went with them to other budgets, and part of that money wound up in the human resources budget with Beth, and part of it, I believe, wound up with the mayor's office and Savin Rock Festival. So we've had discussions about improving the concert series and also adding some possible additional types of activity down there. So it's not just a 6 concert series, but maybe we can have some other nights, some other smaller types of things. So that was at the request of the mayor's office. That was put in our budget. Brian Hayden, our program coordinator, has been the one booking the concerts.
Right.
And it's been going really well. So
Yeah, it's a great thing for our city. And then what we were just handed out, this page
Yes.
this is all stuff coming in.
so that's from me.
Programs
and that's
coming in.
from our recreation software that we use.
Okay.
We have our own website in addition to the city's website.
Okay.
It allows us to do all of our programming, advertising, registration, credit card, debit card payments, instant email blasts, and text messaging. So we have, full contact, and that is a representation of just recreation programming revenue.
Okay. And then my last question is, because I didn't look at all this right now, so I apologize for that. With the rink at the high school,
Yes.
my favorite place, is that bringing any revenue in? And if it is it reflected on here or?
The rink is a Board of Ed facility.
Okay.
And we are completely out of the rink. A number of years ago, the Board of Education decided to run the Learn to Skate lessons themselves. So we currently have one line item left in our budget for Bennett rink expenses, and it is an earmark to West Haven Youth Hockey for ice time.
Why is that? Why did it go to the Board of Ed?
I was in Public Works at the time, and I don't care to speculate.
I was just curious if you knew, because that could be another great revenue builder for us. As you know, I coach, and I have to bring a lot of people to different rinks because we don't open it up
So
for
I'll go
money
there.
to be coming into the
so
city.
it boils down to revenue, and I don't think the Board of Ed was happy selling us ice time for us to go in and run lessons and teach kids to skate and generate revenue for the town. There's been a lot of attempts at revenue generation with the Board of Education for the rink, the pool, and the facilities, and we're at the point now where we pay custodial overtime just about every time we use a Board of Ed facility.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and a lot of things have changed since the 90s, right? Beginning with the contracting out of a lot of the maintenance. I'm sure that there was bargaining with AFSCME and the Board of Education over all these things. It is what it is. If we need a gym, we pay a custodian.
Okay, so that's a question for the Board of Ed.
Yeah. But again, to me, on the one hand, they're all our kids, and it's all of our community.
Correct.
And we have a responsibility to identify and meet their needs as well as we can. On the other hand, I am responsible for my budget, and if I ran my overtime, over, I'd be hearing it from all of you now, and I don't know what their expenses are, but I can also, on the other hand, understand where they're looking to recoup what they consider additional expenses that they specifically wouldn't otherwise incur.
So if I understand it correctly, the rink now is run by the Board of Ed.
It always was run by the Board of Ed.
Okay,
When
not
the
Park
rink
and Rec.
It was built on Painter
School.
Park property, and there was an agreement with the Board of Education that we would have first right of usage after the school system.
Okay, does that still hold true?
Not exactly,
Okay.
because we're
All right,
no
I guess that's
longer in
for another
we're not in the-
conversation.
we're not
But
in the
I guess
rink.
getting back to the budget though, so
Yeah.
if it's in the hands of the Board of Ed, but you're saying every time you have to have a custodian goes in, that's on your budget.
Right, like right at this point with the swimming pool, we pay custodial overtime every time we do public swim. Every time there's a swim lesson.
So the custodial doesn't come out of the Board of Ed, it comes out of you, out of,
They assign a custodian, we get charged an overtime fee, and I don't know how that, you would think that you have a facility that has a number of fields and auditoriums and a pool, that you would have a situation where it would be staffed from 7 to 10 or so p.m., especially considering how the schools have become community buildings now.
right?
But the fact of the matter is they schedule according to their needs, and at 7 p.m. the school system has no need for a custodian at the pool unless we go in. So if we go in, we're creating the need, and we pay for the custodian.
And it's usually overtime.
Yeah, we have some sort of agreement where we get charged a flat fee, which is an average of their overtime pay.
And that's in here, the custodial fee, is it in here?
It's in the operating budget. It's
Okay.
not, because that's just a revenue sheet.
I mean, but it's in your budget though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Hypothetically, if that was pulled out, would it be a big significant change for you?
No, it's really not all that significant when you're looking at $1 million budget and you look
Okay.
at all the things that we can do for the public, especially the kids, and again, like with our staff, the majority of the custodians live in the community. They're
Yeah.
not making a ton of money.
Right.
And a lot of the money that we pay out to our locals goes right back into the local economy. So
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Mr. Payne, if I have questions about maintenance and upkeep and renting out the rink, that's more appropriate for the Board of Ed when they come?
Board of Ed, 100%.
Okay.
Rick, yeah.
So your department pays the Board of Education approximately $25,000 a year for use of Bennett Rink, so West Haven Youth Hockey is able to use the facility?
That's a straight earmark to cover ice time for West Haven Youth Hockey. There is another line item called Youth Athletic Funding, which is split up among the
I was going to ask you about that, so if you
Yeah.
want to segue into what that is.
So yeah, the Youth Athletic Funding line item is an earmark for the rest of the sports. So we basically have an application once a year. It's out right now. They provide us with documentation, insurance, registration information, et cetera. And then we basically disperse that money towards the end of the budget year. West Haven Little League, Shore Haven Junior Baseball, West Haven Youth Soccer, lacrosse, boys and girls youth basketball.
How do you determine how much each activity gets? Is it prorated or is it a flat fee?
So I do a flat fee. There was a time when the department went by a head count, and what you really need to understand is that West Haven Youth Soccer has over 1,000 kids in it, and Shore Haven Junior Baseball has fewer.
Careful, I'm a travel coach, so.
No, well, if Shore Haven Junior Baseball has fewer than 100.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, West Haven Youth Soccer is very, very checkbook rich because they have a huge amount of registrations, and the smaller leagues really suffer for equipment, supplies, and revenue because you can't price the kids out of the league. If West Little League, for instance, is still under $100. If you go to any surrounding community, it's between $200 and $300. Well, if we charge that, our kids wouldn't be able to play. So basically what I've been doing with youth athletic funding is vetting the leagues themselves, and then if we have 6 leagues and $12,000, each league gets $2,000, and the president of West Haven Youth Soccer is actually pretty supportive of it, John Vinci. I told him, and he feels blessed with a very successful league, high numbers, and the ability to do the things that he's trying to do. So there's no issues from any of the leagues as far as the disbursement.
So is the reason why the Bennett rink and the hockey money is separately put in the budgets because that goes to a separate city department? It's just a different type of expense.
It's actually the check gets cut out to West Haven Youth Hockey, and they pay their ice time bill with it now.
Okay.
I don't send it directly to the Board of Ed.
Okay.
I have them invoice us and then disperse the check to them so that they can pay.
you have a sense comparatively? We have a firm dollar amount that's 25,000.
Yeah.
How do the other programs compare to that number?
They probably, the youth athletic leagues are getting probably $2,000 a piece, but they're also getting full maintenance of the fields. You know, West Haven Little League doesn't pay an electric bill. They don't pay a water bill. You know, all those things, and basically,
So there's other benefits that
right,
the city covers that they don't even see.
So, and then the other thing is, in ours, ice time is very, very expensive. It's probably somewhere in the vicinity of $500 an hour now. So you do the math, and it's, you know, that may represent 50 hours of ice time for the season. So,
I see that you have in your budget 2 recreational program coordinators. What do those individuals do that necessitate 2 people?
so it just basically, we split up and cover our programming. So one of the program coordinators handles, in the summer, for instance, the day camp program, the junior day camp program, the junior CIT program, and another is running the playground programs and supervising adult softball. And so they work together and apart. So they collaborate a lot. There are a few smaller programs where they both work together, but then, like, especially in the summer, they're very split up. You know, just due to the amount of programming that we have.
And going back to the band concerts, when I see 2 line items and 2 different budgets for the same thing, I wonder if, how efficient that is. So I see that you have 19,000 in your budget. There's 19,000 in the human resources budget. Can you explain your understanding of why there's 2 separate budgets? I know that you sort of went down that road, but
so I know there's a pool of money for the Savin Rock Festival music as well as the concert series. Not sure whether or not human resources is a remnant or if it's an additional. When you want to do a half a dozen, maybe 8 concerts, that doesn't go very far if you're looking to attract any kind of band or individual with any sort of name recognition that's not immediately local. And so what we've been doing the last number of years is kind of just recycling some of the same decent bands. And I don't know that, we're going to get Van Halen like Jeff Spicoli, but you see some of the other communities doing some larger events. And I think as we're getting our act together really well down at the shoreline, that it would behoove us to start to try to hold bigger events down there. The parking system has been working spectacularly. Not at all. No, I just can't believe that it took that long. So, and then as far as that goes, not only is it generating a lot more revenue, but now it's allowing me to reallocate resources in a much better fit with the constable staff, because Painter Park, for instance, I'm sure you're well aware, when the natives get restless on Saturday and Sunday evenings, the music starts to get loud. We'll have a constable patrolling around in the park and evenings and weekends and stuff now too. So, huh? No. I'm saying you can. Yeah. There's
Can
a
you turn on
few
your mic if you're
days each summer where.
no, your mic's not on.
Thank you, Mr. Payne, for calling attention. I will try to be quieter in the evening.
No. I'm talking about from our side to your side.
Councilwoman Garthwaite.
Mark, I have a question about the beach constables.
Yeah.
So we're keeping them even though we have, because last year we decided we were going to keep them for just one more year because of we wanted to give the kids jobs and we wanted our seniors to be able to understand the new parking and.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of discussion with the staff, with the mayor's office, and the constables. One thing they did was clean the lots every morning when they showed up, so we do still have a need to keep the lots clean. The second thing is Alschler Boulevard, Palace Street, and Oak Street is always going to be busy. It's always going to be confusing to people, and it's our real ground zero down there. So I think it's important that we have some sort of city representation. So we're planning on keeping the constables around Oak Street where it really makes a lot of sense, and not in the satellite lots where it's one in, one out. There's already a camera there. It's well signed. You've been duly warned. So we're going to utilize the constables down in that Old Grove Park area, also for some cleanup, and also for like Painter Park evenings, Painter Park weekends. That's an extended season from the beach, so it'll go from like the beginning of our picnic season till the end of our picnic season. We'll be able to leave the bathrooms open at Painter Park until dusk now because someone will be there to lock them, and also, you know, even leaving the bathrooms open with nobody there is, you know, it's a roll of the dice. So,
Okay, so you went down, I see 17.6%. And it says here that your projected expenses are 82,000. Your request is 55. The mayor's recommended. So we're just bumping down a little bit on staffing, it looks like.
well, yeah, because we had 10 lots, you know, and I don't require all of those man hours. So I basically broke it down in the budget proposal as to what the staffing was going to be. And the additional man hours were just simply cut out of the ask. I hate to do it, but I didn't find it inappropriate because of the minimum wage increase and the fact
Right.
that our budget did go up a substantial amount
Right.
solely due to minimum wage. So
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Heffernan and Councilwoman Coletti.
You know, I was looking at the revenue. Do you count the rental of the parks, like Painter Park,
So no, that's what I was saying. So we haven't been able to figure out how to get the revenue from the picnics into here, and the most of the rest of the revenue in terms of field usage and other permitting goes directly to Public Works to cover the overtime expenses.
so you don't get any of that money?
It all goes to the general fund.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
What's that?
Yep, thank you.
Councilwoman Coletti.
Thank you. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
So to follow up on that as well, so the beach constables were the ones that were at the parking lots collecting parking funds until the technology was implemented that was automatically charging per license plates.
Yep.
So those constables' job descriptions obviously have changed significantly. And you were saying they kind of do a little bit of everything from cleanup to event assistance. Do you have kind of an actual job description for the constables?
We're gonna wind up doing a rewrite. We do have basic job descriptions for everything at our place, from counselor in training to camp director to all those things. We'll do a rewrite on it. It's going to be a work in progress. I have a really clear idea, but I'll clean it up after the summer season rolls out. And
That makes sense. I think the help is definitely needed at the beach. I know Stamford downtown is similar in that when they're trying to improve economic development and business, they actually have ambassadors, which I think would be similar to the constables that you're talking about, redirecting people, goodwill, event support, etc. They do kind of pay for themselves in multiples in terms of people coming in and having that experience. I think there is a little bit of overlap, not that they're intended to do security, but I think there was a question of who may, during the day or whenever they're on, be able to be additional eyes and ears on things happening there. Public Works has someone down there in terms of eyes and ears, and
so they do have. We do have a constable supervisor, someone who keeps an eye on them. There's also when the lifeguard staff is down there, the head guard is basically the person in charge immediately below the pool and waterfront coordinator. Okay. So they'll have, they'll have a means to contact. They don't have any authority to do anything other than ask people to stop. But
of course.
We've been working directly with the PD, and not just this week. It's been the last number of weeks. we anticipated, you know, to a certain extent that something may occur like we had the other day. It happens just about every year. But I give Chief Perno a lot of credit. He has a lot more contact directly with us than any other chief has ever had. And we're in very close contact with him. We're forwarding our calendar of events in terms of, you know, the PD at this point knows like who's supposed to be down the Little League field, who's the contact person for a picnic in Painter Park. And we're just trying to basically give the PD every opportunity they can to sort of proactively keep the peace.
That's great. And then, so this is all under recreational services. The job positions are limited to page 90, but beyond regular wages, the recreation aides, the beach constables, the special activity instructors, the supervisors and instructors, the lifeguards, there's no quantity or allocation for each one of those. Is that because they're just seasonal and part-time? And it's in the backup?
It's all in the proposal. It's broken down by beach, by shift, by weeks, weekends, or it's really specific.
Okay, other departments. I think it was just 2. Okay, got it. That was in the additional information. And then the parks themselves, in terms of building maintenance and repair. If there's a playground that needs fixing or improvement, the equipment within the parks, where would that fall in this budget?
That falls under DPW. So it's really, again, you know, Kathy got to explain some of the convoluted ways that you have the same problem that falls across 2 jurisdictions. So you have somebody upstairs and somebody downstairs who looks like they're doing the same thing.
Okay. So equipment maintenance and repair is held in Public Works budget.
So thank you. So we cover our own paper goods for the park, cleaning supplies and stuff. Certain things come up and they're our responsibility. It's really odd because for the rest of this building, it's all done by building maintenance, but that doesn't really cover. I am the director of Parks and Recreation. I supervise the Recreation Department, and I work with the Department of Public Works because the Parks Maintenance Division is a division of Public Works. So the park superintendent doesn't work under me, he works under Rob. So generally we do all of the scheduling, we generate the work order sheet, it goes over to Public Works, and then they start to assign. It's getting better. The new park superintendents come up through the rank and file, and he's in the office now, and we're having a lot of communication, really good collaboration, and things are being prioritized and taken care of on a more timely basis. The fields are improving, so you know, I guess it works depending on who's behind the desk, like a lot of other things.
Sure. But the coordination, you're thinking.
But yeah, in terms of, so like if a swing breaks, I have to contact Public Works, who notifies the park superintendent, who assigns somebody to go over and fix the swing.
Got it. Okay. And then beach stickers being 0, has that just been eliminated?
It should, because we're not using them. The ability of this system to send white lists, it's bulletproof. We used to do more shenanigans with passes that we made and then information we'd subsequently have to send over to the PD and hope everyone saw it, for everything from Audubon bird monitors down at Sandy Point to cleanups to special events and now all we have to do is just send the plate numbers over, and yeah, it's
okay. Great. That's it for me. Thank you.
So just to clarify the division of, I'm sorry, all set? to clarify the division of roles, so your department is somewhat integrated within the Department of Public Works. They handle the property portion of Parks and Rec, but you yourself handle the recreational, the programming.
Right, right. Well, they handle the maintenance because we're still responsible for the property. The properties all fall under the jurisdiction of the Recreation Commission,
Okay.
but they do handle all the maintenance. They do all the cutting, the lining of the fields, repair of playgrounds, and then you really start to peel it away and you look at the beach, and actually the person who operates the beach combing machine is from Highway. So, but it's all hands on deck. We get it done.
So you work collaboratively with you.
Yeah, yeah. So we fall under human resources. So my direct supervisor is the Commissioner of Human Resources, and the park superintendent is the direct supervisor is the Commissioner of Public Works.
I think I got that. Councilwoman Garthwaite?
I just have a little comment regarding Councilwoman Coletti's statement about the beach ambassadors from Stanford. I think I like that title a lot. I like it way better than constables. So I just wanted to put that little bug in your ear.
So
change it to ambassadors.
So shoot me an email. It's a work in progress. I kind of like where you're going with it. We have had a lot of success with the public and our wildlife guards in terms of the outreach that they've done, the information that they've provided, and the education of the public. And I would love to have some sort of representation like that. An interesting thing for me has always been that the wildlife guards are our high school students, and when you get down around Sandy Point or wherever they are, you could tell they're focused and they're doing something, they're hard at work, and when they approach the public, they are received in a very different manner than this guy who's 6'4" and 235 pounds. Like I try not to be intimidating, but as I approach people, it's almost as if they are expecting me to tell them what they can't do or know or something, and there's going to be some sort of redirection, and by the time I get towards them, they're already resistant towards it, where with the kids, it's a whole different thing. They're not intimidated by them, and then when they see that there's a younger person who's out doing something very targeted, very productive, they're received very, very differently. So I let the kids do the talking in a lot of instances like that. And again, I would love to have some sort of ambassador type thing where we always want to represent ourselves well in the public, especially the first time when we have a contact with someone and that contact goes well, we almost always see them again, and sooner rather than later.
I agree.
So
I'll send you an email.
Please do.
Yep.
That said, look, at the end of the day, we're one of the few departments where people get to actually go and have a good time, enjoy themselves, feel like they're doing something productive, justifying the minimal costs and things. So we kind of have a different situation where most people, we really have the opportunity to send most people away with a big smile on their face. And I've been over here, and I know a lot of other departments can't do that. So, and it's important,
What's that? Councilman McMillan?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to talk about line number 52750, which are your fees and charges.
Yep.
I was just wondering, I see the actual expenses for 23. I see what was adopted for 24, actual expenses, and then the mayor's recommendation. 52750.
So 52750 is like bus trips. So if would be events, ticket events, which may or may not include transportation.
Okay.
So there's a line item for tickets and transportation in the day camp, and that's specific to the summer programming. And this would be a line item for, say, if we bought Red Sox or Yankees tickets, we would pay for the tickets, pay for the bus through that, and then charge a fee and basically run that through the register.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. So it charges fee to the children or whomever is writing.
Whoever
Okay.
the participant is, yeah.
Okay. And then on line 54320, what are payments to outside agencies?
543.
54320.
Yeah. Just want to make sure I get this right. Back up one, sorry. Five, 54320, that is the youth athletic funding that we were talking about when we were speaking about the rink and the ice time versus
Gotcha.
the rest of the earmarks for
Okay.
the other youth athletic leagues. And again, like that hasn't gone up in a bit. Our equipment and supplies is the same thing. Recreation supplies, we're at like $17,000. We did go up a piece, but that is all of our equipment and supplies for everything for the year. And I've been really, really hard pressed, despite all the inflation and cost of living increases. I've been really hard pressed to try to ask for more money in some of these line items, given the extreme increase in part-time salaries over the last 6 years, right? We went from 9 change an hour minimum wage to $15.70 right now. So the city's done a great job of continuing to keep up with that, allowing us to hire local kids and local residents. And, you know, hopefully this minimum wage thing cools down. We don't get a cost of living increase for a year or two. And hopefully I'll be able to inch up some of these other things so that we could take care of the youth athletics. You know, we can buy some more stuff for the kids in the summer. And, and at the end of the day, we have great staff. We get a lot of really, really great kids, especially in the program. And, you know, you can do without all of the latest, greatest, shiny things when you have good staff and they work well with the kids. It's really more about sometimes getting outside, you know, that whole interpersonal thing that we do. But at some point in time, we're going to need more money for a lot of the rest of these line items.
So on line item 51180, as it relates to lifeguards, how many lifeguards would you usually have during the season?
So that's a great thing to bring up, because that lifeguard line item right there is just for beach lifeguards.
Okay.
And then the rest of the lifeguards and aquatic staff fall under the towards the bottom of the budget in the 2553 stuff. But there's a huge shortage of lifeguards. It's been really, really difficult. Fortunately, our pool and waterfront coordinator is a lifeguard trainer. We started to offer classes to West Haven residents for free.
Okay.
Then we basically went for free to any lifeguard candidate, because we're if you live out of town, we hold your card. We're paying for the class, we're paying for the cert, and you're working for us. Margaret speaks Spanish, and we have been attracting a lot of really nice kids from our Latino community.
Okay.
Which is tremendous.
Absolutely.
We're still short. We're at the point now where Margaret is doing lifeguard tryouts. If we aren't even registering kids for class anymore until we figure out that they can hop in the pool and they can pass the competencies. So we're getting them to sign up, we're putting them in the water, and we're assessing them, and basically running a class as soon as we can with the kids we know we can get through, and encouraging the rest of the kids to come to public swim for free to work on their stroke or what have you, to get a job. So you'll see in the Munis documentation I gave you, you'll notice that there's a bunch of money that's left over in that line item for lifeguards, that 51180. Part of that has to do with the fact that we still have some beach lifeguard money to spend between Memorial Day and the end of
Okay.
June,
Yeah, I was gonna-
which will be
okay.
weekends only. But the other thing is that the lifeguards on the beach are very weather dependent. We had a very, very rainy summer last year. So there's going to be money left over in that line item at the end of the year. And that doesn't mean we can knock it out, because if we don't have all those rain days next year, we would fall short. So some of the, for instance, that line item that ask is based upon covering all the chairs we have at the beaches we guard for the full complement of days in the summer.
So again, I'm sorry, sir. How many lifeguards would that take or require?
So for the beach guards, there's generally about a dozen guards and a couple head guards and a dispatcher. So during the summer, we have about 15 or so on down the beach, and then we have the Kerrigan pool and the high school pool. And depending on the nature of the activity, there's this, supervisor. There'd be anywhere from 3 to 5 guards or so. Really depends on the nature of the activity.
Now, are they paid minimum wage to 15, or is that predicated on their?
We're not going to get any lifeguards if we pay minimum
Oh no,
wage.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Okay,
so
I'm asking
no, but that's a great question for you, because I'm asking for a lot of money,
and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Like, what is their?
So we start out the counselors in training, the CITs. We start them out when we hire them at minimum wage.
Okay.
Now we can't pay the college kids the same amount of money. They would never ever come back. And quite frankly, there's a lot of work out there that pays better than the minimum wage right now. So the second thing is, because especially in the summer with the camps, the playgrounds, and the chain of command being really, really integral in our functioning and essential in providing safe services, so we have an entire wage scale at Park Rec. So if minimum wage is $15.70 and you get hired this year as a CIT, you'd get $15.70. If you were a second year CIT, you'd get $15.85, right? And if you were a third year CIT, you'd get $15.95. That's because the counselors start at like $16.50. They tend to be the counselors tend to have worked for us for a couple summers. They tend to be college kids. We have to pay them a little more money. They take on more and more responsibility every year.
Okay.
So essentially I can't have a 15-year-old kid making minimum wage and then a 3-year high school student who's been outstanding for us, who we're encouraging to stick with us because you're going to be a counselor next year and this and that, and pay them the same amount of money. So it's sort of like the proof's in the pudding, but it also is really, really important to these young kids that don't easily identify chain of command or understand how important it is and stuff. It's like when you're 15 years old and the counselor that you're working for is making $2 an hour more than you, and it's getting, there's a reason why, and they have a supervisory responsibility over you. And so there's a whole sort of pecking order to what we do. Very, very incentive based. With that system, we try to identify the kids that we get who we see as having a knack with people, whether it could be a kid you could see as an educator, as a recreation professional, and any kind of social services, counseling, what have you. We have these kids, and when we think they have that ability, we really sort of try to foster the growth, because it's a great way for us to continue to get really quality kids, keep them invested, keep them given 100%. At the same time, it's a great opportunity for them to try something out and see whether this is for me for the summer. It's a great job, I'm having fun, but it's not really my cup of tea. Or, wow, I'm going to go back to school next year and I know exactly which courses I want to sign up for because I want to take this a little deeper. We never get by just on what we can pay people. We have to find employees, seek out employees who are going to have that kind of extra investment. And realistically, I've been here 30 years. I have former staff all over the school system here, surrounding towns, and not that I have, but people that work for me. So, there's just something to that. I'm getting off track.
So then, like, as it relates to where line item 51170, supervisors and instructors, could some of those college students that have been with you then be on that line item?
So they actually are, yeah. So if you break the budget down, like a lifeguard could get paid out of a beach
The
lifeguard,
supervised, okay.
a beach lifeguard line item, a swim lesson line item, et cetera, et cetera. So supervisors and instructors, the playground counselors actually get paid out of that. Our arts and crafts instructors get paid out of that. Our special activities instructors is more of the adult aerobics, muscle toning, cardio toning,
Okay.
karate. A lot of those are rather than W-2 employees or 1099 employees in some instances. But yeah, we have an awful lot of people on our payroll that get paid out of multiple line items because they perform multiple roles. And again, even if it's a great playground counselor who's only getting $25 an hour, needs a little more time, hey, you know what? We can give you a couple of extra hours as a constable, right? You know, if you want to basically enhance your check a little bit. And a lot of them say okay and pick up a shift on a Saturday or a Sunday, and now they get paid out of supervisors and instructors and constables.
Okay.
And our summer payroll,
A lot of meshing.
on an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's about like 7 or 8 pages long.
All right. Thank you, sir.
It sounds like, in addition to your department having quality employees for the summer, it also sounds like it's a benefit for the kids because it's a learning experience for them. Because they're as they stick with the program for a few years, they're learning about loyalty and longevity. They're learning about supervising others. They're learning about if I put in the work and I stay and I elevate my responsibility, I get more money.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And actually, the kids start to pick up on that as campers, because you know the most important thing to the campers is their favorite staff, and the kids also just need to know everything. And generally, they know a lot more than you think and that you're comfortable with. So we have a junior CIT training program where we bridge the gap between day camp timing out at 12 years old and us being able to put kids on payroll at 15. So the 13 and 14-year-olds have the opportunity to sign up for a junior CIT training camp where we train them how to become counselors, give them their initial firsthand experiences working with kids. And then at 15, we have a core of kids who's basically trained and ready to rock and roll. And those kids, obviously, if they've gone through the program, get first hiring preference. Every kid who applies gets a letter instructed to call for an interview with us, and we interview them. And so there's really a lot of little development pieces for the kids in the community, whether they're participants or employees or both.
And I assume that helps them to, if at 14, 15, they're learning up all those life skills, it'll serve them when they turn 16, 17 and enter the regular workforce as a summer employee or after school employee. They already have those skills in that.
So
experience.
yeah, it's sort of one of those sneaky value added things we do, because we do it with the kids because we want them to see that we live and die with format, and that there's procedure that you need to follow, and there's specific information that's important to us. So we have a real solid format that we go through with them to let them know that, you know, this is for real now if you're working with us, you know, and the kids and everything else. But at the same time, there's a lot of secondary benefit for the kids to go through our programs and work with us.
I do have some questions on specific line items, but Councilwoman Heffernan, if you have a question? Your mic, please.
Thank you very much. I had a couple. Last summer, I had a friend. My friend's child was getting paid like amazingly well for being a lifeguard, and I was wondering how can we compete with that, first of all, and second of all, do you go to like the Wizards and ask about whether they have, you know, people that want to?
We get the kids from the Wizards that want to work.
Yeah.
The Wizards are no longer run through the department. They've become an independent youth athletic league, which is great for them.
Or the high school swim team.
It was a real, when I was the pool and waterfront coordinator, it was a real feeder program, but we were looking at the kids in swim lessons, the kids who had an affinity for the water, the families who seemed to have a value for the pool. We would introduce them to the Wizards. And then as the kids started with the Wizards, we would introduce them to the lifeguards.
Yeah.
You know, so we had a progression. We're still doing it with the swim lessons, but it's I think it has a lot more to do with part-time jobs out in the rest of the real world.
Yeah.
The fact that there's so many more opportunities for kids to go and make more money at something that is a lot easier than being a lifeguard and dealing with the
Yeah.
public.
And a lot less stress. Well, you have people's lives in your hand. So. And, are you okay there, Gary? Thank you. Thank you.
Are you all set? Mark, just want to turn your attention just to a couple specific line item questions that I have. Page 91, we've already talked about the beach constable. The special activity instructors, 51160.
Yeah.
2023, you're at 14.5. Again, I'm just going to use round numbers. This year's budget is 26,480. And the projection is only 4,700, but the budget is 2,700, and your 3-year average is 7,400. I'm just curious if you have any idea what the discrepancy between all those numbers are.
Let me just check and make sure that. So we're at 6,300 for the year. The youth karate comes out of there. We weren't able to run it in the fall, so there's a big chunk of change that's going to stay in that budget. Again, we would recoup the money when we run the karate program, so it makes sense to leave it in the budget because we run it next year, and if we take the money out, we don't have the opportunity to run it. So, and we should have a good chunk of change coming out of that for the spring karate, and then continuing adult, the aerobics, the cardio tone, and those programs are going to continue to come out of it. So I don't know who did the projection, but that doesn't look like something that I would have put down. I would have anticipate us being closer to 20,000 or so on that. We're definitely not gonna use all of it because we didn't do the fall karate, but
your 3-year average is also considerably less at 7,400. Do you know if things are being paid that should be paid out of that line item, but they're paid elsewhere?
So
maybe?
there's a possibility, and so I've been back. I was in Public Works for 10 years as the assistant of the commissioner. I'm back in Park Rec now after a 10-year hiatus. I was a program coordinator, Pool and Waterfront. Now I'm the director. We switched over to ADP, and it's been nightmarish for our payroll. So there is an issue with the payroll and the fact that most of our employees have more than one line item that they get paid out of. And I became aware that a lot of employees were hitting the wrong line items. At the end of the budget year, it comes out in the wash because you take too much from one and not enough from the other. But we've been tracking it. So I'm at the point now where I'm in about like my 3rd full budget cycle in. And we're getting down to the nitty gritty with some stuff like that. I have my staff handing in timesheets, which basically have all the information that the clerk needs for payroll, but then also runs out what the expense is to each line item for the week. And then it tallies down the bottom, and each of the program coordinators' timesheets are then going into a spreadsheet where we're keeping track of our own payroll on our own. And using Excel spreadsheets for even like equipment and supplies, so that when we go to Munis to put in a requisition, it also goes on our spreadsheets. So we have basically the ability to keep our own records in case there's any kind of discrepancy with Munis.
Would that be the same for line item 51170 supervisors and instructors? The reason why these jump out at me is, I don't know if you heard before, but I look closely at what the averages are to see
Yeah.
how each department's tracking with what is actual. And
Yeah.
it jumped out at me that, in 23 it's 52,000. The projections, I understand what you're saying there, but your average on that line item for 3 years is 40,000. So between the two, with the special activity instructors, your average was 7,400 on a $55,000 budget, 40,000 on a $95,000 budget.
Yeah.
Something, either we're funding it, I think, either too high, or the reporting is inaccurate.
So with that one, again, there's some kind of glitch. I don't know if it was the way that the ADP was set up. We use time clocks, but all the part-timers go over on spreadsheets. And the way ADP picks that up is not always assigning the correct encumbrances on the correct line items. So, like I said, I'm keeping track of that. And then again, with supervisors and instructors, when you look at year-to-year discrepancies, remember, the minimum wage is going up $1 an hour each year. So from year to year to year, these budgets are bumping up quick, and supervisors and instructors is another one of those line items that has a lot of summer staff in it who don't come into work when it rains. So in other words, for like day camp, rain or shine, you're going to see the day camp is 99.9% expended every single year. Supervisors and instructors, our playgrounds program falls under that. Well, if you have 5 rain days out of a 6-week season, that's 5 out of 30, that's 1/6 of your budget. You're going to be 18% underspent for the year. Last year was rainy, and if you cut the budget, you just don't have the opportunity to fund a full year. And I've had it go both ways. I've had years in the summer where we didn't have not one rain day during the 6-week summer period. We've had other years where we've had,
like last year was terrible.
Yeah.
So as a council, we might see these numbers on this page and say, wait a second, there's some real opportunity for some cost savings here. But what I'm hearing is that due to reporting issues or other clerical issues that are somewhat beyond your control, at the end of the day, the numbers are in line with your budget, but on this document, it may not be, each line item might not be exactly accurate.
Right. With these line items, most of what doesn't get spent also was not generating any revenue. So if we had spent that money, we would have also had a corresponding increase in revenue for programs. The other thing, a little bit of extra money in all the supervisor, instructor, part-time staff line item does is if one of the programmers has an idea or one of the patrons comes in with an idea, it gives us the ability to format, structure, and run a program. This week, the kids are off from school, and we did just that with this line item. Margaret Piasecki decided to try to run a hiking program. So we have kids going out 4 days this week, going to Sleeping Giant and various state parks. And because we had a little bit of wiggle room with the budget, we were able to provide an additional opportunity and also generate a little revenue to cover the. So it either comes in through the cash register or it'll go back through unencumbered operating expenses, mostly revolving around salary.
So it would be your position that there really is not cost saving opportunities here, that at the end of the day,
no, and I can
what is spent is
promise you that we are looking at it 6 ways to Tuesday, really looking at this analytically. I am now in a nice position at Park Rec because I have hired both of my program coordinators. One of them did both of his college internships with us. The other one is a former state certified teacher who worked for me when she was in high school and college. Then we were able to fill the secretary's position so that now my program account clerk can do actual accounting clerk things instead of constantly answering the phone and doing all these other things. So we're in a good spot. My staff is doing exactly what I ask them to do. My program account clerk has really, really good digital, internet, and spreadsheet skills. I have a younger staff now bringing in newer ideas. So there's been great when we've had the opportunity to try some new things. And you know, and I'm going to stay on top of the budget and make sure that we, you know, we squeeze every last drop out of it that we can.
For the day camp temporary payroll, line item 51400 on page 92.
Yeah.
Your averages have been very low. I assume that's a function of COVID and programs not being available over really the last 3 years.
So you're looking at rec aids?
No, temporary payroll, 51400.
So, yeah, if we went through the number of years' expenses, again, there's been a huge jump in salary each year, so the amount of revenue is going up. So the 24, it doesn't show you what the actuals. It's only showing you the 23 actual and then the 24 projected. That line item gets spent out every year.
Okay. And then lastly, I think I'd like to talk about the this utility building
Yes.
that's in your goals. Can you give me the where, the what, and the how are we going to pay for it?
So it was proposed as an ARPA project. It was funded as an ARPA project. We have a design on it. It is going to go in the lower field at Painter Park in the pit. Again, we don't have an indoor structure for recreational activities. We run a lot of our adult fitness classes in the basement of our office. God forbid, active shooter during day camp, we have a plan where we scramble the kids over to the high school. Thunderstorms come in, we have to call Winkle ahead of time. We're rolling buses. It's like a Chinese fire drill. We get it done. It's safe, but it's not an ideal situation. So when you combine that with the fact that we're paying all this custodial overtime, it just made sense for us to have a utility building where we can run our volleyball leagues. We can do pickleball. During the school week, we can do some activities geared towards the seniors like pickleball and other things. We can do open gyms. The utility building is going to be about the size of a basketball court with 2 walking tracks around it so that we can then subdivide, split it up.
Will it be permanently modular or totally fluid? That
Be
you
a
can...
steel Butler building
Yep.
with Resner heaters.
Okay.
Would be my guess. I'd prefer it that way. A couple of overhead doors in the summer when we have the kids, we'd leave the doors wide open and get that breeze off of the, so there won't be any kind of AC or anything. Be minimal bathroom facilities, no locker room facilities. We'll get a tremendous amount of use out of it. And again, cover sudden storms, active shooter, and things like that. Minimize the overtime that we pay to the.
Do you see that as a potential revenue driver at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to give us the opportunity to offer more programming right at home. And in the same token, will give us the opportunity to minimize overtime expense that we're paying to the custodians for everything from the volleyball league to.
And I lied. I do have one more question.
Okay.
I don't see anything in the 5-year capital plan, and I'm curious. As a longtime soccer coach, I am painfully aware of some of the field conditions and the flooding and the irrigation. Is there any talks within your department and or with Public Works or the mayor's office about possibly having to bond to upgrade those facilities so that way maybe add lights or turf just to make our outdoor space a little bit more marketable for for us, but also that way we could rent it out to to outside organizations and have that be a revenue driver. I know it's incredibly expensive, but are there any thoughts of a plan?
So, in terms
of maybe turfing one of the soccer fields, for example, or rehabbing a baseball field so that it's a little bit more marketable.
So there's a hodgepodge of that occurs. Like, so John Vinci, for instance, I sat down with him and had discussions about he utilizes funds from West Haven Youth Soccer to do the soccer fields. That's why they look better than all the rest of the fields in town, because he's spending the money out of pocket with the league. I don't really make it to the table for the 5-year capital stuff, and and I didn't understand that until I got over to Public Works, because most of the maintenance, parks maintenance, goes through Public Works. The engineer is in Public Works. The department is Public Works is right down the hall from the mayor's office. We've always been a little out of sight, out of mind. I had put in a couple of 5-year capital proposals, one of which was put in about the sand management for the beaches, and then was never really brought to the table to talk about it. That said, I've had discussions with the mayor about that sand management. We have attacked the budget differently. There's been a lot more ability for conversation and input, and my guess is that moving forward, that the 5-year capital development is going to be a lot more collaborative and comprehensive.
Yeah, because just in my mind, I see there's a particular field in Milford that is like a universal turf field that you could have soccer and outdoor lacrosse and hockey.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice revenue driver for them.
So there's, again, it's like sort of with that disconnect between recreation and public works.
So I should ask them when they come before us.
You could, but ultimately moving forward, what we need to do is this on a more collaborative basis, because some of you know when we collaborate, we can get some real nice things done. And again, it's a work in progress. It's moving in the right direction between the end of the 3rd floor, the Public Works office, and the new Parks Maintenance supervisor. It's headed in the right direction, and so first budget, I'm sure as we progress and move through the 5-year capital development, will look like a completely different animal.
Great, thank you, Councilman Donovan.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up about you with the 5-year plan with that. The beach sand management is in the 5-year capital plan, which I'm glad to see that. But also, the tennis courts down there. Any plans on that? Is there any? Have you mentioned that about putting that in maybe a 5-year capital or something like that? If that's,
if not this year, then next year. I can't ask for too much. I've asked for a bunch. We're getting more than I thought we were going to get between the building and some other things. I know the city's still hard pressed for funds, and then you have the whole situation with the MARB. But yeah, the tennis courts have to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
The problem was
put it in.
I had put that in as an ARPA request as well, and when the company showed up that had formally provided us with a quote that said we could repair resurface for a small amount of money, not a small amount of money, but a 5-figure amount of money. And then they came in and said, no, everything needs to be removed, and the courts need to, when it turned into a potential ARPA project, it suddenly turned into a 7-figure project. And when the building's going to cost 7 figures, you can't also spend that on the courts, and something had to give.
No, I get that with the ARPA. I do. I understand that. It was the capital request. It's something maybe you should push.
Well, so again,
that in there.
And I believe the mayor's. We've had discussions over this. I know it's not on the front burner, but it's on nobody's back burner. We're all looking at it. I've been pursuing it with our tennis instructor. We contacted USTA about grant availability. It will cover a little, but I'm kind of stuck in limbo now because I contacted companies that do tennis courts, and they were recommended, and like one from Providence last week, they keep referring me back to the local company. You're out of our region, you're out of our district, this is the company that you should contact. And well, we have. They actually did the last repair job, which they said maybe had a 10-year life, and it lasted for over 20 years. And I'm sort of have this conflict right now between, I don't really think the courts need to be completely done over, and I don't know where we're going to find over $1 million to do it. So,
yeah, no, I was just curious. I know because we've had conversations too, and getting those things up and running, and like you said, adding a couple pickleball courts within that, since pickleball is becoming it's growing even more so. All right, That was it. Thanks.
Councilwoman Coletti.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Donovan, for bringing that up as well. So, the only cap under Park and Rec is beach sand management, erosion of beach area for bonding, 150,000 for 25 and 300,000 for 26, 400,000, 27 and beyond. That covers what exactly?
So I'm a couple years removed from that, so I don't know what the appropriation was for last year, who discussed it, what's going in, and what they plan on doing with it. But my concept of sand management was not just a fund where we bought sand out of. When the sand washes away, we go to this fund and buy more sand and dump it right in the spot where it washed away from. So my idea was, and I've been trying to get this done for a while, was to develop a sand management plan where the new DEEP permit that we require for the beach combing can also include grooming the sand at the tide line. So if you notice between the piers and the groins that the sand kind of scallops, it washes from one side to the other, and then when it builds up to the end of the jetty, it washes around and goes. So a sand management plan would allow us to use heavy equipment as it washes down and gets captured. We pick it up and we move it back. So instead of having all the sand that's washing, we're going to grab it before it continues to wash offshore, like at Sea Bluff. You go down to Sea Bluff where the Sandy Hook playground is, and you notice that there's actually some sand that's still exposed at high tide out in the water. That's all of the last Army Corps of Engineer project that we did a number of years ago that's washed out. So my idea is to proactively grab the sand, move it back to where it came from. Milford has a permit to do this, and then ultimately we will be buying way less sand. We will not have the stormwater issues that we have because many of those jetties also have an outflow pipe for our storm sewer system, and a lot of them are occluded with sand, and so we get the water that backs up. We also have flow bottlenecks like at Cove River. We put in a nice new tide gate, we put in the pedestrian bridge, we have all that sand that builds up there. The only time it washes out is during a super, super heavy rain. But now if we had the ability with the permit to just go in there with a loader and pull it up, we could use that sand to go back and groom all the beaches to the west where the sand's eroded from. Instead of continuing to throw sand on the beach and have it wash out and...
Right. So not only does that make financial sense, but it also makes environmental and ecological sense.
Yeah.
To do it that way. Right. So we can get back to that. That was the only cap line item. And do you have any grants requests that are ongoing with the grants department for programming or improvements?
No, I have one with CDA that I wrote for MobiMat. And I think you're familiar, Gary's very familiar with the project down at Old Grove Park where the trees were removed. I'm working with the Land Trust and a lot of local stakeholders on a plan. We're at 100% design. The Land Trust is holding money from the state that we're using to pay for the 100% design. Prior to that, I was able to sweep up some money out of 2 prior budgets ago to basically get the ball rolling on this. So we're currently seeking funding for that through state, federal, and elsewhere. The grant writer's helping us with the grants. We also are using a grant writer who does some work with the Land Trust. And so as a part of that, I backed the cost of the design calls for ADA access through the entire parcel. So we're going to plant it with native species, indigenous species that have an environmental impact. They have, it's basically the native plants that are seed producing, pollinator producing, have resilience, hold sand, keeping sand from blowing away, help build and enhance dunes and things like that. We're also, because it's down at the Grove and the Eco Camp is there, it's going to be signed, so there'll be a huge education impact. So aside from the Eco Camp, it'd be a great place that, like, for field trips to come in, and we're going to provide information about the plants and stuff. And then there will be a QR code where if you want to take a deeper dive for more information, you can do it that way. Anyway, the MobiMat from CDA is going to basically now get backed out of that cost. And because the access points to the beach are going to be the same as it is now, where the wooden flyovers are, we'll actually, without doing this project, we'll be able to put the mats out for the summer, take them in, and then plant next year, put the mats back out. So we wanted to have access to the water's edge, and we obviously want to have handicap access through this new parcel. And so we're going to have both with it, which I think is tremendous. You know, like you think about too, we have one of the large tired trike, you know, for the beach. People use it, but a lot of people, they're hesitant, right? They can't get down there, but they don't want to be seen in the trike, like, right? So they're not going to go down there because they're not going to get in this thing. So by having the MobiMat down to the water's edge, there's an awful lot of people down there that aren't in wheelchairs yet and have ambulatory difficulty. You can't really walk on the sand with a cane, but you can with a MobiMat, and it's just such a hot spot for, you know, our elderly, in addition to everybody else. So it's about $50,000 for that.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. I know you're extremely knowledgeable. All things beach, all things wetlands, and I appreciate that. We've just two more quick questions. Without getting into nonprofit, you know, league structures with the parks, have you thought about joining the City Parks Alliance out of DC at all?
I have not.
Okay. We could talk a little bit more about that offline, but that unlocks a tremendous amount of funding and grants, et cetera, and it's really focused on parks within cities, urban parks.
There's a number of things in the past that we haven't done simply because they weren't going to be potentially fruitful, right?
Sure.
So in the past, it's really been, you know, there's two sets of issues, right? Where you control your destiny and where you don't control your destiny. And mostly you focus in the areas where you control your destiny because you can get things done and make a difference. And with the rest of it, you kind of keep your eye on the prize. And I just see, and I've said this, I just see and feel things moving in a much more professional and detail-oriented and formatted direction. When I got hired in 1995, we were very professional. We did things really well, the right way. And then the city fell into financial difficulty, and a lot of that went away really, really quickly. And many of us are really excited about the opportunity to get back to that sort of professional atmosphere, professional format, you know, personal and professional growth. That's a great idea, and it's just one of those things that over the last number of years it's sort of fallen by the wayside for the city. There just wasn't a lot you were going to do with that. You were just too hard pressed with the day-to-day delivery of city services.
That makes sense.
So
I think it's maybe the path of least resistance toward unlocking a lot of maybe additional grant funding that you might not be seeking right now.
Correct. And then the networking
As it relates to
potential is amazing. Not just
right.
for your own networking, but actually your grants and the networking to get your little pieces out there visible and talked about makes a big deal when it then comes time for the grants to be awarded.
That's it. Thank you for all the programming. I think it's very important, especially as it relates to the youth here, to have all the programming and access to the parks and activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mark? All right, seeing none. Mark, as a father of a 13-year-old who has done a number of programs through your department, I want to thank you for all the hard work that you all put in. My son has really enjoyed everything he's done, especially the futsal that Parks and Rec just did at the building complex.
That's a perfect example of an opportunity we wouldn't have had if we weren't able to use a little extra money left over from a different program that didn't run for one reason or another.
Right.
So,
You guys are doing a tremendous job. Thank you so much. Seeing that is it, we are reconvening tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and it is 9:06, and we are in recess.